Previously on G for F. Just kidding. That was my movie voice. That was nothing. Even though it would be cool after the previously, we could put in some car chases and explosions and some Hollywood B-roll, but it's just us. So Greg and I have been away dealing with some family health issues, some much needed rest and relaxation. But our tech lives has they haven't stopped. They've still been going on. So we still had our regular duties, supporting family devices, troubleshooting. And it seems like both of us did a bit of network administration this week over the last couple of weeks, right, Greg?
As much as you enjoy it, I'm not sure I do, but yes, we did some network administration. So you're probably going to tell me I need
Yeah,
to make some changes on my end, but we'll see.
yeah. We'll talk it through, and I do enjoy it. It's kind of like gardening for me too. Like I just enjoy tinkering around with the network. So what I figured we would do this week is originally we were going to do like a full iPad review show, right? It was the week after the release. I had my iPad for a whole week. I got to play around with it and everything, but um, we had to take some time off. We had to take a bit of a short little break for 2 weeks, but now we're back. So instead of doing that full iPad review that we originally intended, we're going to change it up a bit this week. So I think the show is going to be we're going to do like kind of a three-parter on the show, right? First, we're going to do a tech catch up and talk about what we've been doing over the past couple of weeks. Uh, Greg is going through I say a major transition. I don't know if he sees it as a major transition, but he's going through a major transition now. And um, he's been tinkering with a little bit of tech that's helping him through that transition, stay connected and things like that. Um, really cool. We're going to talk about that, plus what I've been up to here in my home. Next, I'm going to do an iPad Pro mini review, and I'm calling it a mini review because um, I'm really not going to make a big deal about it. Spoiler alert: this thing is awesome. What could I say besides that? It's really good. So no, really, that's really not a spoiler there. If you've been listening, you know how much I love the iPad. So there's not really much Apple could have did to go wrong in my eyes. But I'll do a mini iPad review, and then finally we're going to finish up with what's next for tech for us this year. Now I know we did something like that, similar to this, a few weeks ago. Well, maybe a couple of months ago, but there's been some changes. Greg is going to have some other changes, and we're going to knock some of the things off of the list that we talked about. So I kind of just wanted to talk about what was next as far as tech goes, at least for the remainder of 2024, right? Maybe not some long term, but shorter term goals for technology for us. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah, I
So
didn't
if
like
you're not,
Jason put a note in the show that said, "Don't spoil anything about the trailer tech," which is
right,
a little bit
right.
hard, but
It,
I'll work within the parameters given.
Yeah. So, and I know that was going to be tough, and we'll talk it through. That's going to be tough, but I do want to save some stuff for that particular episode because we got some cool stuff lined up for that. But again, more of a longer, short term kind of just a 2024 outlook about what we're going to be doing with technology and stuff. Because um, if you don't know, WWDC is around the corner, and that's probably going to change a lot of things for both of us. So we'll get into that. So, if you don't know where you are, this is Gadgets for Family, the tech show where you get two grandpas talking about tech every week. And this week we're going to be doing a tech catch up. So, all right, folks, thanks for joining us. This is Gadgets for Family again. I'm your host, Jay Benjamin.
And I'm your host, Greg Cunningham, and I'm excited about today because I spent a lot of time looking at the iPad Pro reviews, reading a whole bunch, looking at the accessories, because I think there's more of a decision on my part about what I get there. We'll talk about that later
Yep.
in the tech stuff, but I'm really curious to see how much of a difference this iPad is, because you had the last generation. So I want to
Right.
know, going from the last gen to this one, And that's going to help inform me. Not having an iPad Pro, I think I've skipped the last 2 generations of iPad
Hmm.
Pro. So I skipped 2018, I think. Yes, definitely skipped 2018 and the 2022 versions
Hmm.
of the iPad Pro. So I'm super excited to hear your mini review, and then we'll get to talk about what I buy, and we'll see if Jason gets me back for making him switch and buy the terabyte
The
model.
peer pressure, right, right. So before we jump into today's topics, don't forget to do all the things that we ask. We thank everyone that's been sticking around with us through this mini break of ours. If you've been listening, and if you're just joining us on this ride, welcome. This is therapeutic for Greg and I every week. We don't have a ton of subscribers and stuff like that, but we're getting there. We see the numbers improve here and there, so we really appreciate you joining us today. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode, and share this with anyone that you feel needs a grandpa in their lives to ramble on about tech every week. We
And
really
old
appreciate you guys
and
sharing this show.
and old person stuff. We'll get back to that
Yeah,
eventually.
right, right. That was really fun too. We're gonna get back to that, but we have some things that we need to cover to get ready for WWDC. So
Yep.
current stuff. This was at the bottom of my list, but I've already mentioned it twice. WWDC is right around the corner, so we'll be watching it, and then just like last time, we'll jump on and we'll do our hot takes and just give our impressions of what was announced, what we got, things that we didn't get, stuff like that. So look out for that episode to drop next week,
That'll be
shortly
Monday.
after
That'll be Monday,
Monday.
right? So
Monday,
the keynote's on
right?
Monday. So I do want to point out a big thanks to Riverside. So for those of you that joined us, I think it was our last episode, we had some major technical challenges, and we're going to talk about my
Right?
internet situation here in a minute. But Riverside just hit a grand slam, and it did
Yep.
not take me 12 hours to put together that episode like it probably would have under our old setup. So I am curious. I mean, I've recorded on the go, but in the past, not quite like this. So, Jason, you're going to be on the road Monday,
Right.
and
Right. I'll be on the road.
so you'll be pure iPad, basically pure iPad setup almost in order to
Right.
record. So, and we're going to talk about this in the. I don't know if you mentioned this yet, but in the post show, I think we're going to talk about our WWDC, or in the bonus episode on the video. Post show for the podcast, bonus episode for the video, folks. We're going to
Yeah.
talk about our WWDC wish list, and mine is related to my big one for iPad OS is related to being able to record and do everything on the iPad.
Yes.
So I'm going to be curious to see how you handle this, how it goes with you on the road.
Yeah. Yeah. And sort of like today, I'm thinking phone and iPad is probably what I'm going to need, but we'll see. We'll see. I'll figure something out. So, but that's WWDC. The next bit of news we have is iOS and iPad OS 17.5.1
Yeah,
was released a couple of days ago. Nothing really major in it. If you're up to 17.5, which had some changes to Apple News and some things like that, but this one fixed a camera bug that Apple found. Well, I'm sure millions of users found and reported it to Apple, but it was some issue with the pictures in your camera roll being deleted and showing back up in the camera roll. If you experienced that problem or you saw that, then definitely run this quick little update to 17.5.1. It fixed that, plus probably a lot of other stuff that Apple just doesn't put in the release notes that it fixed. Maybe some security fixes and things like that. So if you experience that problem, or if you're worried about having that problem, just go to settings, general software updates, and run that update.
yeah. And if you're just hearing about that photo reappearing bug from us, there was a whole bunch of stuff in the media. If you go out and look for it, you're going to find this big hubbub about, oh my gosh, my deleted photos are going to show up on those phones that I traded in or sold, or all this
Hmm.
kind of stuff. None of that has happened. Apple's confirmed that. The reports of that were greatly exaggerated. So it's just they showed back up on your device. If they were, I mean, remember, most people are restoring when you get a new device, you're restoring from the previous backup. And if for
Right.
some reason they weren't
Yeah.
completely purged off of that previous device, they're going to keep going. So, not as big of a deal as they made it out to be. What I thought was important was that Apple actually addressed it, that they came out
Yeah.
and explained it rather than letting it sit like the people that got logged out of their iCloud accounts a couple of months ago. They never really talked about why that happened. But this one they came
Hmm.
out and addressed. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Remember some of the issues we had updating to 17. Remember things just acted wonky. Um, the home hub, the home stuff, the stuff with notes, all of the background stuff. They never address issues like that. So for them to come out and actually admit, that there was something going on, that, good on them. But yeah, that's something that they rarely do.
yeah,
And the
for
last
now,
little bit of news I had, yeah,
I think they're going to have to get better about addressing this stuff because we're not going to talk about it in the main show, but a lot of the focus next week is going to be AI and
yeah,
what partnerships they do, and are they going with Chat GPT? So are they building a partnership with Sam Altman with all of the challenges that company continues to face and the stupid things that they
hmm
continue to do, like try and recruit Black Widow to be their voice of their assistant, and then she says no, and then it still amazingly sounds like her when it comes out. That's probably not good, right?
right,
So
right,
I think Apple's going to have to start talking through some of this stuff because there's so much, like they did with the ad, right? The ad that they did for the new iPad Pro, there was a lot of creative
yeah,
backlash, and some of it was because everybody's worried about AI replacing their jobs. And I think Apple's just going to
yeah.
have to get better about talking about these kinds of things. The Steve Jobs approach of, it'll all blow over. I just don't think that's going to be realistic going forward.
Right, right. And a lot of that still lingers with the company. You know what I mean? They still kind
Yeah.
of take that approach to
Hmm.
certain things. And you're right about AI. So many people are worried about it. And so many companies they don't really talk about, the magic, the man behind the curtain when it comes to AI. So I think if Apple takes a different approach, uh, people will be more trusting towards Apple versus
Yeah.
ChatGPT and Google and some of these other companies, right? They're hauling these execs down to Washington to talk about AI and things like that, in front of Congress. But I think the average Joe is just still so untrusting of it, you know?
Look, I'm into tech. I love this kind of stuff.
Hmm.
And the only thing I really care for AI to do right now for me is to make Siri smarter. Beyond that, I'm just like
Right.
a bunch of this other stuff, I'm just not there with it yet. So
Did I say untrusting? Distrusting. I don't know.
they don't trust AI,
It's
right?
still
I mean,
early. Yeah, don't
yeah.
trust AI. Yeah, but you know what I mean. The word is distrusting. All right. So the last bit of news I had is someone wants to steal Apple's thunder. They don't want Apple to get all of the press this week or next week with WWDC, and that's Microsoft. They're having their Xbox showcase on Sunday, so June 9th, right before WWDC, and they're planning on announcing some new games. Rumors are a new handheld system, sort of like a Steam Deck, but an Xbox. Um, Most of the rumor mills that I follow, they're not believing that there's going to be an announcement. Like there may be an actual announcement later this year showcasing just that device, but definitely some new games, some new software, some new I'm hoping my one of my favorite games, Fallout. They're planning some map expansions and some more downloadable content and stuff for that. So we're hoping all of the news comes out this Sunday for that. So exciting week for gamers and tech lovers next week. So that's all I had for current stuff. Greg, you had anything else?
Nope, I don't think so.
Okay. So let's get into this tiny tip of mine. So the tiny tip for this week is going to be choosing the correct Ethernet cable. Now, I know most people think that, you know, you could just plug a cable in and that's that. And don't get me wrong, that will work for 90% of the people, right? You just want your device to work. You want your internet to work. You want this device to connect to show up on your network. Just plug an Ethernet cable in. If you buy one currently, you don't have to worry about running into these older devices, right? And that's uh, these different categories of Ethernet cables, right? If you look at some of the cables, you'll see usually printed on the side along the whole length of the cable. You'll see a bunch of different numbers, frequencies on some, maybe the brand name, the manufacturer, but you'll also see a category. And that category could either be Cat 5, Cat 6, Cat 7, actually Cat 1 all the way through 8, but some of those cables are so old, we're not even going to talk about them. I don't want to confuse anybody. The most common category of Ethernet cable that you'll get if you hit purchase on Amazon or wherever, unless you're looking for a specific one, it's going to be either Cat 5e, Cat 6, Cat 7, or Cat 8. And there's different frequencies, just like Wi-Fi signals that these cables run at. But just to simplify things for the show, because we like to keep things simple here, let's just talk about speed. We'll focus on speed. Some of the older cables, Cat 5, Cat 5e, are only capable up to 1,000 megabytes, 1,000 megabits per second. So um, for most of the devices, actually, I'm going to say all the devices, that'll be fine for. Right. When you want to go to Cat 6 or Cat 6A, Cat 7, um, those are capable of much faster speeds. Right. So if you got specifically a device that can reach speeds faster than a gig, then you want to start looking at Cat 6, Cat 6A, Cat 7, Cat 8, things like that. And I'm saying Cat for a category. So a couple of things I want you to consider, because I don't want people to run out and say, well, I just want to replace everything with Cat 8 and get the fastest speeds ever. That's not. So a few things to consider. Consider your device speed. Some devices, especially older ones, Internet of Things hubs like lights and smart switches, anything that requires a hub, well, those aren't going to necessarily run at gigabit speeds. So you're always going to have that bottleneck on your network, right? So there's no reason to run out and spend, crazy amounts of money for a Cat 8 cable to plug into a device that's only going to get 100 megabits per second, right? It's not gonna change anything. Um, However, if you do have a new router, and which I experienced, upgrading my home internet to mesh, um, one of the ports on the router would allow up to 1.5 gigabytes, so a little faster than normally. But I realized that I had a cable because the router was originally right next to the modem. I had a cable, but that cable wasn't long enough. So thinking I needed more distance, I couldn't just go and buy a regular Cat E cable. And against my brother-in-law, who's in networking, running the cables and stuff, I called him. I said, "Hey, do you have any Cat 7 or Cat 6A or E or anything?" And he's like, "Nope, I only got Cat 5E. That's all we keep. That's the cheapest and the longest that we can run, and crazy links and stuff." So I had to go out and buy one that was long enough to reach. But that allowed me to get faster speeds. And again, most devices, even you're talking your Xboxes and PlayStations and stuff. So just consider the device speed. I don't need to go on and on about that. Consider the device speed. If the device is slower than a gig, you don't really need to upgrade those cables. There's nothing wrong with future proofing if you're into that sort of thing. But again, don't break the bank buying 50 feet of Cat 8 cable, because that gets really expensive. Also, consider the environment. Not everyone has the convenience like me to jump in the attic and run Ethernet cables racing across the house, the length of the house, back and forth. So consider the environment. If you're living in an apartment or a home that doesn't have an attic and you can't drill through the walls or your ceiling or things like that, then definitely Wi-Fi is the best, solution for you. And that's the reason why they have these different Wi-Fi systems, right? The mesh system where you can hook up multiple um, um, multiple routers in different locations in your home to kind of strengthen that signal and get rid of those dead spots. Um, Consider the link that you need, right? If you need, for example, in the home, I'm running an Ethernet backhaul from one mesh router to the other one, but out in the shop, that's a wireless backhaul. So, just consider the environment, how long of the cables you need. There's nothing wrong with, 15, 25 footers if you can run that, if you can manage those. If you don't have cables running across the floor and things like that. But the environment is another big factor. So, and one thing too, I didn't put on the list is consider the cost. Again, future proofing comes with a price. Um, some of the most expensive cables to buy is going to be Cat 8, and those cables are thick and really hard to work with. They're rigid. They have really thick sleeves on them. So the holes you're going to be drilling are going to be pretty big holes if you're running multiple of those cables. So consider the environment and that price because Cat 7E, Cat 8, things like that, they get really expensive. And you don't really need them right now to connect to things like gaming systems and smart home hubs and stuff like that. So, again, my tiny tip this week is make sure you choose the right cable for you and for your devices that you need.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you don't know you need something other than the one you can just go buy at Walmart, just go buy the one at
Right?
Walmart,
Right?
right? I mean, in my
Yeah.
house, and I got to figure out what I'm going to do here, I'll probably take a very, very similar approach. So in my house, I had Ethernet going from the fiber modem
Mm-hmm.
into my um Eero, and then I had an
Right.
Ethernet going from the Eero into the switch, little mini 5-port switch that I had. And then the only
Yep.
long cable I ran was to my Apple TV. So I ran that to the Apple TV just because it was on the big TV. It was where I was watching movies and stuff like that. So that's where I'd prefer to,
Right.
not have buffering and stuff like that. The only other place I wish I had had it was clear up in my office, but I was not going to run cable from
Mm-hmm.
2 stories down, basically up to my office and across. I mean, it was almost from one corner of the house to the other, and I just wasn't going to do that. So,
Yeah.
when I want to, the only thing that I needed the connected speed, that gigabit speed for, was when I would upload our YouTube videos. So I would just go down
Mm-hmm.
to the kitchen table, plug into a cable that was there into the switch, and then I would upload our videos because it was so much faster. But beyond that, Wi-Fi is fine. I mean, we're going to talk about Wi-Fi here in just a bit with my tech stuff, but um, it's getting so much faster now that
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can buy these mesh networks now that if you've got gig internet, you can get close to a gig Wi-Fi
Mm-hmm.
to. And again, the only time that's going to be a problem, none of the movies you buffer or download are going to be a problem at Wi-Fi speeds.
Right.
If you're high-end gaming, you might not want the latency. But other than that, unless you're uploading like us 2 hour long 4K video files to YouTube, it's
Mm-hmm.
just not going to make that much of a difference. So,
Yeah. 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 That's a good point too. Most people, they're not even going to notice they need it, right? If the way Wi-Fi devices are made, especially if you bought a device, a streaming stick, a Fire Stick, Roku, definitely an Apple TV, a few other things, um, even some of the smart TVs, the Wi-Fi chip that's built into these things are super fast,
yeah.
right? So if you have a good, strong Wi-Fi connection in your home, there's no need to run Ethernet cables. I just like to have that stable, the strongest stable connection
Oh, yeah.
um, but between the walls and stuff, and that's why I run so much Ethernet. But there's so much up there from old cameras to to old gaming systems, old computers and stuff. So I have you know miles and miles and miles of Ethernet cables just running through the attic. I just had to purchase that one from the modem to the new router, because it allowed 1.5 gigabits of speed. All right, Greg. So you had some follow up with the Apple Pencil. Some news on that. This was a holdover from a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, one of the things that came out is that Apple Pencil Pro with the new squeeze gesture can run a shortcut.
Mm-hmm.
So I've heard a
Yeah.
lot of people have it running a shortcut, which I think is pretty cool. So definitely shows that there's some functionality coming there. I'll be curious to see how people take advantage of it. Be curious to see what happens with iPad OS. Do
Mm-hmm.
they start doing some different things to take advantage of it? So just another reason. Again, Jason's argument is that you probably don't need that high-end Apple Pencil, but if you're an
Nope.
artist, if you're using the pencil more than occasionally, like if you're using it to write, if you're doing any of this other stuff, then I think there's an argument for the Apple Pencil Pro just because of the extra
Yeah.
functionality that it brings to the table. So,
And you're right. I'm going to mention too, when you stick around for the show, you'll see why. I'll mention another alternative to this crazy expensive pencil. But like Greg mentioned, if you need that functionality, like you can run gestures and stuff like that, um, using different brushes and tips for your art and stuff like that. There's nothing else that's going to give you that experience besides an Apple Pencil Pro on the new devices. So we'll
yeah.
talk about that later in the show. All right, folks. Well, thanks for sticking around. So now we're going to jump into our main topic. Now, again, I said, since we've been away for a couple of weeks, we wanted to do a quick little tech catch up just to let everybody know what we've been doing as far as tech for the last couple of weeks. Because again, we've been on break, but our jobs don't they never stop. We still have to support these things and support our friends and families. So Greg has been again going through a little transition, and I hinted earlier that he's been using some technology to stay connected and stuff. So Greg, why don't you run us through what exactly you've been dealing with?
Yeah, so when we recorded that last episode, we had a bunch of I had a bunch of internet issues, and
Yep.
even with we're staying with family. This particular spot, at least for Verizon, the service for whatever reason seems like this is intersection of towers or something like that where there's not great
Hmm.
service. So even when you're just driving down the street, sometimes you'll have issues right here. But so I couldn't use my hotspot. I did a little better when I tethered to my phone, but I was even having problems on just basic video calls or audio calls with
Yeah.
clients too. So one of the problems I needed to solve was my internet. And it wasn't just for here. I mean, yes, we're staying with family a
Hmm.
little bit, but for the next couple of weeks, we'll be in a different town, staying in a campground. And then for 10 days after that, we're going back up where we were over Memorial Day weekend. And then we'll be back here for a week or so. And then finally, we'll move to southern Utah. So we're actually moving a month earlier than we had originally planned. But
Hmm.
I needed some sort of internet, not just for work, but because life kind of revolves around internet access, right? And if I don't have
Right.
good cell
We have to
phone
stay
service,
connected.
yeah, if I don't have good cell phone service, then that's an issue. So, Jason and I have been talking about what to do. A lot of cell phone providers have home internet service, but none of them are available where I live, right?
Hmm.
And so, what I wanted to see is if the one that I've been told to use the most is T-Mobile. I've been told that one's the best. It's also the cheapest. Now, they have launched an RV plan, which is about the same price as Starlink, that would allow you to
Okay.
travel. That's what they want you to use if you're traveling all over the place and that kind of stuff. Um, excuse me. So it's not the same as their home internet. But what I wanted to see was, is their home internet available where I'm moving? And
Hmm.
then see if there's some way that they would possibly allow me to set that up using that address and then still be able to use it for the summer. So that was my goal.
Which is a semi-permanent location, right? So it's not
Yes,
necessarily that you need mobile home because you're not traveling. You'll be
right.
you'll be moving around a bit, but it's semi-permanent, right?
Yep.
You're not going to
Yep.
be.
Yeah,
RVing, I guess, in a traditional sense. Yeah.
correct. Yeah, I'm not moving every week to a different campground across the state or whatever the case may be. I mean, really, for the summer, I'm bouncing between 3 locations. So,
Yeah.
but my daughter's moving to the same place we are, just across town. And as she started looking into her home internet service, it was kind of garbage. The
Mm.
biggest provider down there, the fastest they would get uh, uh, to her apartment was 10 megabits, which is just
Wow.
terrible.
Yeah.
So
Well, that is
yeah,
that is like me in the 90s.
yeah. So it was bad. And then the other provider was just a little bit different. And then so I finally said, look, just reach out to T-Mobile and see what they say. So she reached out to T-Mobile, and an hour later had a gateway on its way to her.
Mhm.
So because they
Okay.
didn't say we could guarantee certain speeds, but they said this is what we're typically seeing. Yes, your address is eligible, and it was way cheaper than what it was going to be, even for the 10 megabits that the other company was offering. And um,
That's crazy.
so she went with that. That was like Saturday or Sunday. So Monday I reached out and I explained to them, and they said, well, there's just no getting around the address. If it's not available in your at your address, then I can't offer it to you, even though the signal's there, right? And you can, in
Right.
theory, use it anywhere T-Mobile works. If it's not available at your address, you can't do it. And I said, but I'm moving to a place where it is eligible. And so they allowed me to use the eligibility address where I'm moving to, but put
Okay.
the service address for now as here where I'm at temporarily. So
Okay.
they did find a way around it, and that was on a Monday. And I think I got it on Wednesday. It was supposed to be Thursday, but I think I got it on Wednesday. I
Hmm.
got the T-Mobile box, and so that's kind of that. It was really cool for them to work with me. I mean, I've heard T-Mobile is way more flexible. I haven't had T-Mobile service, and but it was a personal thing. I don't know if I've told this story. I think I've told this story on the show, but back when the Jazz and
Hmm.
the Bulls were playing in the playoffs, I had T-Mobile as my cell phone service, and I was
I
on
remember
hold.
that.
I was on hold to get
To
tickets
win
to a
some
finals
tickets.
game. Yep, and
Yep.
T-Mobile dropped my call. So anyway,
Never used them again.
no. So
Yep. I remember that story.
yeah. So anyway, that whole getting it set up and all that kind of stuff was super, super easy. Um, so that's what I'm going with right now. So
Okay.
I'm looking at it over here right now. At first I just set it up. I was out here in the camp trailer, which is where I'm recording today. But then I ended up
Hmm.
having to move in to the house eventually. But out here in the camp trailer, I get 4 out of 5 bars. And again, I'm not at a great cell phone service location here in town, but I'm getting
Hmm.
4 out of 5 bars here down in the basement of the house where we're staying. And it's an older home, so it's got the thick stuff, right? I
Right.
mean, this is
Right.
very much an older home. Um, so down there, I get 3 out of 5 and sometimes 4 out of 5 bars. Um,
Okay. That's pretty
so
good.
yeah, so I mean, I set it up originally, and the only problem I had with the setup is that um, I went to set up my account in the app, and the phone number associated with the SIM card in the gateway wasn't displaying. And so when I called them, they could not find my account anywhere. They couldn't
Mm.
find it using my SOCH. They couldn't find it using the address. Eventually, I found a billing account number on one of the emails they had sent me, and they were able to look it up that way and get everything
Okay.
sorted out. But and then it still took about 3 or 4 days before the phone number actually showed up on the device. So
Yeah.
that was the only problem I had, and I had that interaction with their support folks, and they got it sorted out really, really fast. So that was super,
Yeah.
super good. But literally, I mean, this is a download the app, power it on, and then the app's got a little thing that you put in your address or share your current location. And I'll get to where this comes in to be potential challenge at some point. But
Hmm.
um, then it tells you where the signal's coming from, so you can point the back of the gateway to where the signal is coming from
Okay.
where you are. And then they've actually got a camera feature where you can, it'll kind of tell you where to put it, like where to put the device,
Okay.
where's a good spot to put it. So um, always by a
So
window.
I remember you. Oh, I remember you saying that there was an antenna attachment too. So you decided not to go with that option.
That doesn't come out of the box.
Okay.
Um, T-Mobile has one, and all of the 90% of the reviews say is it's no good, no bueno. That,
Okay.
in a lot of cases, it actually makes it worse. But there are, it's just a MIMO or MIM something like that, four thing
Yeah.
antenna. You can
Yeah.
buy kind of any of those and attach them to it. So that'll be something I look at when we move permanently. If I don't get good enough signal, I'll get one that's rated for outdoor usage and then stick it up on my roof and
Yeah.
then run it down in. But um, I mean, I sent you when we got back here from the camping trip and I set it up. I sent you, I'm getting 300 plus
Right.
on a
Right.
consistent basis, almost always over 100, which is more than sufficient for everything except for uploading our big YouTube videos. And today, when I go to upload our stuff, I'm actually going to plug directly into the gateway right to my Mac and see
Okay.
what it does that
Yeah.
way. I haven't tested that out. So, um,
And this is going to be a test because this may be a little long today.
yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I'm getting incredible speeds here.
Yeah.
And it's stable. I had issues, and this is where I think you're going to tell me I probably need to do this. So, let me kind of go chronologically here. So, a week after
Hmm.
I got it, we went on our first camping trip for Memorial Day weekend, and we had it set up at the campground, and I was getting 150, 160, 180 megabits. One
Yeah.
thing I found is that I did need to reboot the gateway after I had set it up the first time. I don't know why,
Okay.
but it seemed to clear up whatever was going on. I could not use the location finder for the signal there because when I put in share my current location, the app said this is not a supported location.
Okay.
So,
All
yeah.
right. So they
So,
do have restrictions. I was wondering if that was going to be an issue, but so they do have restrictions on where
yeah.
you can use it.
Yeah. And I'm sure they're
Okay.
going to crack down on people that are jumping all over the place. But, for
Yeah.
me, it's if they come back and say, look, you can keep doing it, but you're going to have to pay the RV plan. Okay, well, then I'm going to pay the RV plan during the summer when I'm
Hmm.
hopping around, and then I'll just go back to paying the $50 a month for the home plan once we are
Right.
back right to our permanent spot. So, but I rebooted it, and you just have to kind of point it where you think it's going to be best. And in our case, it was kind of easy because we're on the slope going up a mountain, so you just point it down into
Hmm.
the valley, right? And
Right.
that's where I would get the best signal. But I was getting fine speeds; it stayed pretty stable and all that kind of stuff. And that's
Okay.
where we're going back up there for 10 days for 4th of July. So I actually my truck's got a plug, and so I actually plugged the modem into my truck and drove up to the other spot where we'll be for 4th of July
Hmm.
just to see if I could still get signal on the gateway up at that other spot, and I could. So I should be good for
Okay.
4th of July. So
Yeah.
um so that was great. And then when I came back, I finally had canceled the internet up at the other house and brought all my Eero stuff over. And so I thought, you know what? Number one, I want to go back to only having one network to administer. And two, I'd really
Yeah.
like to expand the coverage just a little bit. So I plugged in my Eero, the main one that I have, directly into the gateway and got
Hmm.
that all set up. Then I hid the T-Mobile network. You can't delete it, and you can't turn it
Okay.
into you can't put the T-Mobile gateway in bridge mode. They don't let you do that.
Okay. All right.
So
That was going to be my next question.
yeah, so you can't do that. So I hid it and I changed everything on it so it kicked everybody off of it. And then I brought up our Eero, which just has our old network name and everything.
Yep.
And so I plugged the Eero in and it was good to go. Um, I may end up having to put the Eero in bridge mode so I don't have two devices trying to manage IP addresses. But so far, it's not
Right.
been a problem. And 75% of everything I read online said you don't need to worry about it. The other 25% said no, go ahead and put the Eero in bridge mode, because of course the how do I use my Eero with my T-Mobile home internet was all over
Hmm.
Google. So
Right. Right.
we'll see if I end up running into conflicts like that. But the only problem that I had is I decided one day I wanted to take a business call outside, and so I took one of my. I've got I've got one nicer Eero extender, more
Hmm.
recent one. So I decided to plug it in the kitchen window here so that it would broadcast the signal out to the backyard. So it would grab it from the basement and then broadcast it out to the backyard, which is exactly what the mesh
Okay.
networks are supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
So I did that, and I kept dropping for a little bit. So I don't know if there were some IP conflicts once that second Eero device came up, but it
Yeah.
stabilized and it was fine. So now I'm actually, just because we're recording today, I'll go back to the other arrangement. But right now I've got the gateway and my main Eero here in the trailer. Then I've got the one still in the kitchen window. And then last night
Hmm.
I just plugged in one of the older ones in the bedroom in the basement where I'm staying, and
Hmm.
just plugged it in, and I'm still getting signal down there, and I'm still getting 180 or 200 there, even though it's through the whole house down to the basement. I mean, so it's picking up.
Right.
The mesh network is doing exactly what it's supposed to do,
Yeah.
right? Is
Yeah. It
getting me
sounds
the
like it's
best
working
signal
smoothly.
possible. So I'm super happy with it. I'm going to keep my eye out to see if they come back and say, hey, you're jumping around too much. You need to pay the extra. Okay, fine. I'll pay it for the time that I'm jumping around. But I kind of don't think they're going to, because I'm going to be down there in another
Hmm.
month anyway. So yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. The other things we have on our list, it's $55 a month. And then if you sign up for autopay, it's 50. The only thing I don't like about
Okay.
autopay is, in order to get the discount, it has to be on a debit card or a bank account. You can't put it on a credit card to get the
Yeah.
discount. But so set that up. And then I've already put in for a rebate. There's a $200 MasterCard gift card thing coming to
Oh, that's cool.
eventually. So yeah. So,
Yeah.
so
So
I'm,
what's the difference between that and the RV plan? I know you said it's cheaper. How much cheaper are we talking? Are they really taxing it, sticking it to RV owners? Because it sounds like, because when I first heard about the T-Mobile home, they kind of bill it like the guys at the festivals and stuff. Because I work with a lot of those guys. They're there in the T-Mobile and the AT&T and the Comcast, Xfinity shirts, trucks, and they have their uniforms and they're stopping everybody and giving away free swag. And they bill this as home internet that you can take with you, right? They tell people it's kind of mobile internet that you can take with you. But I guess since now that they have an RV or a travel, plan, uh, how much? Because I'm sure the technology is not much different, but how much is the difference in the pricing?
yeah. So I'm just trying to look. I just had it because I thought it was
Hmm.
a pretty big deal. Um, so they've got 3 plans now. They've got Home Internet Plus. Really, the only thing you get um, is a mesh access point,
Okay.
um, and then something else, uh, different support, right? That's the difference between it and your
Hmm.
home internet. And then they've got what they call Away. So in theory, the availability is at your eligible home address, which right now for me is where I'm at, right? Because they were able to do that.
Hmm.
But then the other one says it's available anywhere on their nationwide, their nationwide access.
Yeah. They're
Yeah,
yeah. So as
anywhere
long as they
anywhere
have
they've got
coverage,
signal.
it should.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
So I'm looking. So like I said, mine's 50. It's $70 a month for that
Okay.
premium one, and then the if you want unlimited data on that Away plan, it's 160 a month with autopay.
Okay.
So yeah, it's
Wow.
3x the price. But that 160 is right in alignment with um,
Yeah.
Starlink.
Starlink and
It's
a few of the other ones. Yeah.
if that was really going to be the case, I'd probably switch to. I had been researching another company called Travelfy,
Hmm.
and the difference there is it's all the carriers. So it's whatever carrier has the strongest signal wherever you are.
Okay.
So
So the
um,
hardware they give you, it just switches
yeah, yeah.
to okay.
And it's about that same price. The equipment's a little more expensive there. I think when I looked at the one I would have gotten, it was like $250 to buy the equipment, which is actually still cheaper than Starlink. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, the biggest thing I think is like for us right now, where we know at least 9 months of the year, right, with the exception of
Hmm.
maybe a little bit of travel, we're going to be in one location. Um, it doesn't make sense to go with something like Starlink because we know we're going to have coverage. And everywhere we travel right now, there's cell phone service. So I don't need Starlink because I'm not going boondocking somewhere that has no cell phone
Right.
service or anything like that. So
Right.
something
And if
like
you
this
do,
makes
you're not worried about being connected anyway.
yeah, yeah. Something like this just makes a lot more sense. And there's no contracts with T-Mobile, none of that kind of stuff. So you just have to return the gateway if you cancel it. So it's not like Starlink where you can turn it off for a couple of months, hold on to your equipment. Same thing with that Travelfy, right?
Hmm.
Travelfy is the same way. Once you buy the equipment, you can turn off and on, the
Yeah.
account anytime you need to. So yeah, I mean, this is great. So unless they come back and get upset that I'm bouncing between a couple of locations for the summer, I don't see any reason why I would switch. And I think if they
Yeah.
did that, at least right now, I would just tell them, hey, just can I go on to the away plan for, you know, the next month and then
Right.
switch back to the home one once I get to the new location.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And I don't see them having a big deal with it, but
Yeah.
yeah, using the app and stuff like that, you're gonna have to just kind of, you
Work
know,
around it. Yeah.
work around. Yeah. Yeah. Just get it set up the way, without using the device, but I mean, using the app.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this hardware though before we move on. Does it so the gateway that they send? I'm assuming it has Ethernet ports on it because you have your Eros connected to it. But how many devices does it allow? What is it, a dual band, tri-band, for the Wi-Fi signal?
Yeah. So it's both 2.4 and 5. And that
Okay,
was
so
actually
dual
one of
band.
the yeah, well, that was one of the things that folks had talked about hooking up your Eero, is some of
Hmm.
them had gone in and set the gateway to only one of the bands so it didn't interfere with the other one. I just
Right.
I don't think I'm going to have that problem, right? And again, I'm in a
Yeah, not
pretty
so many devices.
I'm in a pretty small space though too. So,
Yeah.
so it's not like I've got to worry about, because the 2.4 is better spread out, but 5.0 gives you
Hmm.
the better signal, right? So
Yeah, and the
it just
faster
isn't
speeds. Yeah.
doesn't seem to really make a difference for me. So, but as far as it's got two Ethernet ports on the back, and I'm just looking up the device limit because I think I know what it is, but yeah. So it's got two Ethernet ports on the back. One of them, like I said, is plugged into my Eero right now, but I've got that little mini switch if I really needed more. So,
Yeah.
I could just plug into that switch first and call it good. But I still have one open there. So, but I believe they said it was 128 devices on the gateway.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
which,
That's impressive.
yeah. So, um, that's what I remember them telling me. I mean, I'm seeing 64 listed on here.
Hmm.
I'm not going to hit that.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Right.
so
Yeah.
yeah. So
And
whatever it is,
yeah, I think even when we do, like I said, we're going to do our episode about things to add to the trailer and stuff. But Yeah, that's plenty of devices. That's plenty. So we'll talk about it more, going forward. But I think using the Eros as just an access point would probably be best, right? So switch back to you're gonna have to rearrange the network a bit, but just using those as access points versus and letting the gateway do the routing and stuff for you would probably be your best bet, especially in such your the space that you're working with.
Yeah,
So,
I
but
mean,
we'll go in.
do I need to plug in my mesh network? Probably not, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's not like I'm going to be living in 200 to 300 square feet and a little bit of outside, so it's not like I need
yeah,
to do anything like that. So, but it's just been nice to not to go back. What I like is that I have all the functionality of the Eero, right? I can see all the devices. I
yeah.
could see all of them on T-Mobile and I could block them, but there's other things I can do with the Eero mesh networking that I couldn't do, and I can get to it from externally too. So,
Yes,
so yeah,
yeah, yeah. No, I'm impressed with it. You send me your speed tests from time to time, and it's going to be better once you get home. You know what I mean?
right, right,
To your permanent spot. So you sent one the other day. I mean, you were in the 500s. Like that's
yeah,
faster than I'm getting out in the shop. There's some optimizations and stuff that I'm going to do. Um, but yeah, that's good, stable internet. And that was the main thing that we were concerned about when we were talking about Starlink and the mobile internet. And then you had mentioned T-Mobile, and I was a skeptic. I just didn't believe that was going to be enough. And I believe when you first got it and you were setting it up, you said you hit like 60. And I know the tower and stuff was still triangulating the location of the device and stuff. But you sent 60, and I'm like, oh, that's that's not going to be good. But it quickly improved after that, right? You sent
yeah,
like, within the next hour, you sent a couple of more speed tests, and it jumped up to like 120, and then like 300, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's definitely going to be doable. So, yeah,
yeah.
good
And
deal on that.
since I got back here, I'm getting 360
Yeah.
on average. So
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely livable internet. So
yeah,
I'm glad that worked out, and we're hoping to see some improvements too when you get to the next location. So
yeah, yep,
all right, well, some of the catch up I had was, oh man, dealing with AT&T again on their gateway. So it all worked out, and funny side story. Back years before Stewart, when I worked for SBC Global, that's who bought AT&T bought them and all that. But it was home internet, so it was DSL internet and dial-up internet, right? And I was just in the regular tech support, the same seat that the people that I spoke to a couple of weeks ago are in. And one of the things we hated was when IT people would call in because they knew everything about everything, right? We couldn't tell them nothing. They didn't want to troubleshoot with us. They didn't want to go through just the basic things, right? I always say when someone calls for IT, just like this show, the IT crowd, did you turn it off and turn it back on? That's step one for everything. And they would hate to do stuff like that. So it was always a battle when IT people would call in. So we fast forward, you know, 20 years later, here I am calling, and I've already done all of the basic troubleshooting steps, right? I don't want you to send a reset signal to the modem. I don't want to plug it in. I don't want to plug in. I don't want to isolate my network uh, um, from the AT&T gateway and stuff like that. I don't want to do all that. I know what the problem is. Let's work on this. So I called, and I got some of the worst support ever. So the lady, to give you an example, I'm gonna give you two examples. The lady says, "Well, I don't know why you don't want to use the AT&T gateway. It allows up to 35 devices." And I'm like, lady, I have 18 devices outside. And she kind of held the phone for a moment and was like, what do you mean? I'm like, my landscape lighting, there's 18 lights outside that and that's before you get to the front door, right? I have my security camera, my doorbell camera, and then the front door is the lock is Wi-Fi controlled. I'm like, that's before you get into the house. There's 18 devices. So you telling me 35 devices is not going to be enough. So that was one. The problem is, remember when I told you that there's an update that AT&T pushes out to their gateway every few months, every month and a half, maybe 2 to 3 months, and when it updates, it resets all of the configurations that I do. I have their gateway in pass through mode, right? And it just, all I wanted to do is act as a modem and don't broadcast any Wi-Fi signal and let my home network, my router that I paid a pretty penny for, let that do all of the routing for my home
Right.
network.
Right.
So the one lady that I talked to, this was a different lady, because all this is going on when I'm in between different events, and I'm trying to get everyone set up at different locations and stuff. So I'm on the phone with support as I'm driving. So the one lady I talked to, I'm like, look, is there any other hardware that I can get? You guys pushed out another update and reset all of my settings, and now I'm having all of these IP conflicts because the gateway is trying to route and my router is trying to route, and devices are falling off of the network. All of my TVs are all of the streaming boxes are lagging and stuff like that. It's a mess when it does that. And I'm like, do y'all have any equipment that just does a router? I mean, just a modem. I just want a modem. I don't want a modem slash router. I don't want a modem slash wireless gateway and all that. And this lady actually said, sir, what's a modem?
Oh,
Can you
geez.
explain to me the difference between a modem and a router? And I just lost it. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. This is networking like 101. Like you work for AT&T Internet. This is like 101. When you do your training classes, they should in the very least explain what a modem is. So I actually felt bad for the lady in the way and explained to her what a modem was and how they just combine modems and Wi-Fi routers in one, which they call gateways and all of that. So, we know from personal experience, and remember that was my biggest complaint back at Stewart. Not to bring up a lot of old history, but you can't train passion. You can't train people to love IT. You can't train people to love this stuff like we do. You can only teach them how to resolve certain issues that come up. They'll follow a flow chart and they'll get the issue resolved. So complain to her, asked for an escalation. She said, I'll get a manager to call you back. By the time I got to the next location, the manager calls me back. Her manager calls me back in her support department. And he starts talking to me. And he's telling me that's just what happens with all devices. Whenever a company pushes out a software update, it resets all of the settings. And I'm like, no, guy. That is not. Don't get me wrong. I understand that happens, right? Even to Apple. We're talking a software company. Every now and then they'll push out an update that'll change or reset certain settings and stuff. Then when people complain, they get it. That's one update out of an who knows how many updates during the cycle. But you're not going to sit on the phone and tell me that every time you guys push out an update, it's supposed to reset settings and stuff like that. I mean, that's just inconvenient for the customer. So we argue back and forth, and he told me, nope, that's not. Everyone does it. Google, Apple, everyone does it. They reset your settings. So maybe there was a language barrier. Maybe I wasn't understanding him. But from what I understand about technology, that's not the case. When they push out a software update, it doesn't reset your settings. They can't. What if there's some vital software or something like that, some vital piece of equipment in a hospital, or somewhere that's really important. You can't go on and reset people's settings like that. So long story short, I'm I'm canceling and I'm going back to Comcast. They get me over to the department. The lady says, and she's an actual. Not that it matters that this was an Indian call center, but this particular call center was in Boston. So I had someone who was a little more compassionate, a little more understanding about the situation, and she says, "Why don't we do this? Instead of you taking our modem and throwing it out on the street, which I threatened to do," she said, "Why don't we do this? Let, let me send you a new modem." And I'm like, here's that IT person in my head again, that old difficult person that we hated to deal with and support. I don't want to deal with it. The problem is your gateway, not. I don't need a new one. I don't need the same one over again. She's okay. Well, let me do that. And in the meantime, I'm going to send you $100 gift card just so because you're having patience with me to try. So I'm like, okay, go ahead and send the modem. They send the modem. Um, I hook it up, and it resolved the issue. I hadn't had any trouble out of the new modem. So obviously it was that old, and I'm calling it a modem, the modem gateway slash router slash monstrosity that AT&T sends out. Um, so as far as, and again, it's only been a few weeks, but I hadn't had any issue. Now we'll see if they push out a software update again in a couple of months and it resets everything. But at least in the meantime, it seemed to resolve the issue. So not only did the problem get resolved, I'm still on AT&T. Um, it looks like the problem's resolved at least for now. So we'll give it a little time. So that's where I am now with the with my with my modem replacement. But I thought that was really strange for her to ask me, "What's a modem?" Like, I'm like, am I really hearing this right? You don't know what a modem is? I mean, and I broke it down for her. I'm like, it stands for modulator, demodulator, and what it does, it takes signals and transfers that to. I gave her a little. I felt bad for her, but um, yeah, if that's the question she's asking, she has a long road ahead of her with tech support.
Yeah. I mean, it's like saying, "Hey, can I send you a check?" and people going, "What's a check?"
Yeah,
Right?
like what do I do with a check? Like, yeah, that
Yeah.
was that was really frustrating. So, but the next thing I was dealing with, and you remember when I bought my I bought my iPad. Um, this was more of a longer term goal for me. But remember, I had always wanted to switch to a mesh network. Right, the signal out in the shop was really laggy. Was really and don't get me wrong, my old Nighthawk router, my old Netgear router, it was a powerhouse, right? It was designed for gaming and streaming and um people with hundreds of devices and things like that. So it's good for the house. But remember, again, the shop is like back on the edge of the property. So um, and remember, I told you I figured out a way. Pop Life was going to pay a portion of it, um, um, and
Right.
then we'll have use it here in the home. So I went ahead and upgraded. So my Nighthawk router is sitting on the shelf in there, and I went with the TP Link mesh system. Now, Greg shared TP Link mesh system with me back when I was considering it, and man, it was awesome. It was like top of the line. It was really good, but way out of my price range. It was way out of my price range. But so I went with a more economical version of the one that you sent. Right, it's Wi-Fi 6E. Um, it is super fast. The setup, I started from scratch. And that was another thing too. I wanted to catch these devices that were not phantom devices, but devices that may have not been communicating with the Nighthawk like they should have been. Um, so instead of setting the network up with the same name and just letting everything reconnect to the new system, I went through and I spent the whole evening reconfiguring every device. And I think I found two devices that were causing an issue, that could have been causing a problem on the network. So starting from scratch allowed me to be able to find those two devices and get everything just started fresh, starting from scratch. Um, that brought me to that interesting adventure I had with the Ethernet cable. Again, the original modem was right next to the AT&T gateway. I mean, my original router, the Nighthawk router, was right next to the AT&T gateway, and it had a Cat 8 cable, but we're talking it was like a little, like short, or what do they call it, 1.5 meters, so like a little 3-footer of cable that was provided to me, and they gave me the awesome speeds. Well, now the mesh system starts on the wall opposite to the living room, and I was able to run it through the attic, but I had to get a little 15-foot Cat 8 cable. Um, and that got me to thinking about the other cables and stuff in the house, and I was able to swap some stuff around and didn't have to buy much to achieve what I needed to get the speeds to the devices that I needed, and then the slower devices, of course, I was able to use some of those. So it took me down a bit of a little quick rabbit hole with Ethernet cable, but thankfully I had everything. Um, Another interesting thing about this setup was the app. Uh, my Nighthawk router had an app, but it was really just basic. And anything more complex that you needed to do, you had to go to the browser gateway. So you had to open a browser and go to the web address and then configure the router from there, which was not a problem when it worked right. One of the things, and just like when you Google the issue with the Eros and the T-Mobile gateway, it's a known issue with Netgear that the web page becomes unreachable sometimes, and the solution is having to do a full reset and all of that. So that was always a hassle for me,
No
just trying to
bueno.
reach that
No
page.
bueno.
Yeah, yeah, always a hassle. And the TP-Link has an app, and it's just as complex as using the Wi-Fi gateway. It is a really good app, and even with the version that you sent, it's all the same. And the app is great. Like, good reviews on the app. It's easy to use. It's easy to see everything. I get notifications now uh, with new devices. My son had some friends over the other day, and he obviously shared the password with them, with his friends. And I saw all of their phones. So and so's iPhone popped up. So and so's iPhone joined the network or whatever. And I was able to go in and isolate those devices from the rest of the network without creating a guest network. Right? You can create a guest network for all of the guests to come to use and access the internet, because you don't want them to see, your pictures and your video files and stuff, other devices on the network. So yeah, they popped up. It gave me a notification. I went in, I isolated those devices so they were able to access the internet, but not have access to our movie files and picture files and stuff like that. So really cool, really, really cool app. I can't, um, say how awesome that app is. And my overall experience has been great. Um, there was one issue after I set everything up. For some reason, my phone fell off. My iPhone fell off of the network and wouldn't reconnect to it. So I think when I was going in and I was tinkering with the different frequencies and stuff, I may have set because the 14 is not capable of Wi-Fi 6E. I may have set the iPhone to only see that, and since the phone can't see it, there was no way for it to pop back on the network for me to reconfigure it. So I had to do a reset. Thankfully, all the devices that I connected to it were already connected. So after the reset, it was just re-adding the phone, and I was good after that. But overall experience is good. I'm glad I did it. You have been telling me for years to switch to a mesh system. Um, when my frugalness wouldn't allow me to do that, since I spent so much on my Nighthawk router. But man, I'm glad I did it. A mesh system is yeah, it's really good. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Ethernet cables earlier, right? If you're
Yeah.
so my daughter's apartment is probably going to be fine with just the T-Mobile gateway,
Yeah.
right? My trailer, even if I upgrade to a bigger one, will probably be just fine with the
Hmm.
T-Mobile gateway. The only thing is, the longer the trailer, right? Because trailers are skinny and long, the bigger they get.
Right.
So that
Right.
might do a little bit. But like my Eero system, one Eero in this trailer is going to greatly enhance the coverage,
Yes.
right? And I have I have 3 repeaters and the main Eero because that's what I needed
Yeah.
in that split level house that I had. And so, if my daughter comes and says, "Hey, I don't think I can get good coverage everywhere," but she's already checked it all, it seems like it's fine, then I would probably just have her buy the main Eero and give her one of my small repeaters to put somewhere,
Right.
right? Because it's just gonna that's gonna be more than enough for her apartment. So if you don't want to deal with cables, but you want to get that internet service out to the backyard, or you want to get
Yep.
internet service to the nooks and crannies of the house, then going with a mesh network is the way to go. And I mean, I'm looking at Eero's website right now, and it's not cheap, right? I mean, you can buy a
Yeah.
cheap Wi-Fi repeater from Amazon for $30 and repeat your existing signal. It's not the same thing, but that might work
It's not.
in your case, right? But like for the Eero Pro that I have now, they've got a newer version, but you're going to spend about $185. And then I'm just looking to see if they've got, and then the repeaters, you can buy like a 2-pack of the repeaters for $240. I mean, if you buy a bundle, you're gonna be in a bit, right?
Right.
But most people probably aren't going to need all of that, right? So if I were to buy them all individually, then you buy $185 and then a single repeater for whatever it is. So a couple $100, and you're going to be
Yeah.
in and good to go. So that's kind of what you want to look into, is what makes sense, right, to get the coverage that I need. And back when I bought them anyway, they would actually tell you if you had too many, right? They would say, no, these are all too close, or you don't need one
Hmm.
here. And so the mesh networking is the way to go if you're not going to run cables and you
Yeah.
want good solid internet. I mean, I wish Apple had bought Eero instead of Amazon. That would have been nice.
Right.
But
Right.
so but yeah, mesh networking, it's kind of the way to go, and we'll see as we evolve my trailer needs. We'll see what I end up deciding to
Yeah.
do. So
So before we move on, let me explain too, and this will give some clarification if you're still listening from earlier when the tiny tip was about the Ethernet cables. Let me tell you why it's not necessary, even in a home like mine with a high speed network, why you don't necessarily need to just replace everything. So from the Wi-Fi gateway on the back, there's a port that gives faster than a gig speed, so 1.5 gigabits. So from the gateway to the TP link, the mesh router, just that connection allows faster than gig speed. That's the only spot. So connecting directly uh, uh, to the router gives me those speeds. From there, it slows down considerably. Not considerably, but it slows down to a gig. So from that router to the one here in the room, that one only goes at gig speeds. So if I'm connected here, like devices should be connected directly to this device Wi-Fi, that slows down a lot. When I'm connected to the device in the living room, to the access point in the living room, that's where I get the gig and a half speeds. Um, Now the other port from that router goes to a switch, and that switch has my the security cameras, the Arlo security cameras that I have here, and the Hue Hub, which um, controls all of the Wi-Fi lights. So like I mentioned, my landscape lights and some lights in the house, some rooms, the closet light, things like that. Some sensors, like motion sensors and things like that. It houses all of those. All of those run less than 100 megabits per second. So there's no reason to even have a gig speed cable connected to those because they're never going to achieve anything faster than 100 megabits.
Right.
So that's why I talked about these bottlenecks and things like that. Some devices just don't need um, the hardware to go that fast, right? Meaning the Ethernet cable, or if you have a switch that's like a gigabit switch or anything, don't run out and buy things thinking that you're
Yeah.
going to get faster speeds, because it's just not going to allow it. Now, as far as like the NAS on my network, that's actually capable of up to 10 gigabits per second, and I would love to get all 10 gigabits of that. When I'm streaming media and stuff like that. The reality is my modem, the router, none of the Ethernet cables I have, except for the one Cat 8 cable, is going to allow anything close to that.
Yeah.
So I have it for future proofing. But as far as my equipment goes, nothing is going to give me that 10 gigabits that one device is capable of on my network. So it runs at a gig and a half because it's connected to that main router. Um, Wi-Fi 6E, the only device that I have that's Wi-Fi 6E is my iPad Pro, and I've only had that for several weeks now. So again, don't run out and break the bank on upgrading all of your cables. There's nothing wrong with future proofing, but as far as now, just consider the devices that you have, and then build out your network around that.
So
So,
you can tell me if you disagree with this, but for most people,
mhm,
let's say you're moving into your first apartment or you're moving into a new home or because you bought a home and
mhm,
upgraded from a rental apartment or something like that. For most people, I would recommend you do what my daughter did. You start with your internet provider's equipment, right?
right. I
Start
think
with
so.
that. If that gives you enough for what you need, just leave it.
Right.
It's the simplest, right? It's the simplest, it's the cheapest, all that kind of
It's
stuff.
the easiest to get support for,
Yes,
because
correct.
everyone, when they answer the phone, they'll let you know right off. Hey, I see you're using such and such router,
Yep.
which blows my mind that they should be able to see that. They shouldn't be able to see that. That's a different
Yeah.
rant. But they will tell you we're not going to support that at all. We
Yep.
we don't support it. If you have a
Yeah.
problem, call your manufacturer. And I'm telling them, no, the problem is your equipment, not my equipment.
Right.
But yeah, Greg is right. I agree 100%. Especially if you're only going to have several devices and stuff like that, because you can run a smart home from your gateway, from your AT&T or your T-Mobile gateway, or whatever
Yeah.
company that you have.
I mean, even if 64 devices is the limit, which I was reading, a lot of it says 64 and then others say 128. I think it's 128.
Hmm.
But even if 64 is the limit, I'm going to have a hard time hitting up against that 64 even
Right,
in my setup. And my
right,
daughter with 3 kids would as well. I mean, you'd figure that they'd have to have a computer each, a tablet each, a phone each, and for 4 of them,
yeah,
right? I mean, that's 8 devices per person, which
yeah,
is a lot of devices, right? For them to run into the 64 limit at all. So you start there,
yeah,
you start with that. And then if you aren't getting enough coverage, then you add a mesh network, right? You add
yes,
a, a mesh plus potentially a repeater that goes with it. So like it would be the main arrow plus a satellite arrow. That's what you would add. So you wire into the
right,
main arrow and then the satellite is wireless.
right,
Only at
right,
that point, if you're getting really, really good service in some things, but you've got some devices like a TV that's buffering, right? Or you find your
yeah,
work computer just isn't stable enough on internet calls, only then would I consider going into the wired stuff, right? Like I said, we
right,
had, when I had everybody living in my house, we probably had 50 or 60 devices connected. And the only
hmm,
2 places I wanted wiring were for my Apple TV, the main Apple TV, so I could watch my giant 4K movies
yep,
without buffering on streaming, right? And for my work computer so that I didn't have to worry about stability there. Everything else, everything else was more than enough on Wi-Fi. And that was even before I got fiber, right? So I
yeah.
only had 250 or whatever it was um speeds and
Through
everything
the cable,
was
right? That was
yeah.
cable internet.
I got to say, I never tried my Apple TV once I got gig that
Mm-hmm.
wasn't wired. I've got the Apple TV in here, not wired,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll bet it's fine with the Eero.
They they really
So
really Apple put a really strong Wi-Fi chip in those. They're
yeah,
really powerful. Yeah, yeah,
if you don't know you need more, just start simple. It just gets
yeah,
too out of hand. And that's one of the things I'm going to struggle a little bit when Jason starts doing all this Internet of Things for me for
yeah,
the trailer, is how I'm going to manage all this stuff, because this is not my passion. I just don't. That's why I love Eero, right? Is because I just can
yeah,
manage everything straight on that, and I call it good. So
yeah,
anyway,
yeah. So we're gonna keep it real simple. We're gonna save that. We're gonna keep it simple. We're gonna do a mix of iCloud devices, uh, iCloud secure video, things like that. So um, I agree with what Greg is saying. Keep it simple. The more devices you add doesn't necessarily mean you need to start, buying more expensive equipment and things like that to manage it. But I will add something to that, and it's not necessarily to the amount of devices, but it's also the interference that you get. So you have to consider the layout of your apartment, your condo, your home, wherever you're living, and just consider the things that's going to add interference to it, right? If your bedroom is between your kitchen, right, there's microwave, there's refrigerator, and all of those little motors and compressors and everything running adds interference to the signal. So you got to consider the layout and stuff. If you're in your bedroom, and that's where running speed tests and things like that at multiple times of the day, not just run a speed test at 12 a.m. Or in the middle of the night and say, "Oh, it's good. I'm getting these speeds." But during the day, when the neighbors are out and everyone's home and the kids are home, and again, the microwave and the refrigerator and the television and everyone's on their devices, and then you run that same speed test and you're only getting a quarter of what you should be getting, then that's when you should consider that. So consider the environment. Again, back to that thing with the internet cable. Consider the layout of the home and the interference you have in between you and those devices that are broadcasting. So um, there's a lot of considerations, but
yep. And I
if
would
everything
buy,
is good,
yeah, I would buy one Eero, the main one, and one
yeah,
satellite or extender to start with.
right, right,
And I would put the main Eero, and like I've got a 3-foot cable. No, it's more like a 6-foot cable running from the gateway to the Eero. So you want to separate those a little
hmm
bit so they don't interfere with each other. But if you could run that kind of a cable, so you stick it up in the windowsill, right, or on top of the bookshelf, wherever it's going to get the best signal, and then run your
hmm
mesh router down somewhere else, great. And then I would get a single one to start with to put in the far corner, right? And the good thing about the
right,
Eero app, for example, is this going to tell you, hey, this is a good place to put it. So you put it in the
yeah,
far corner or in the place where you want. So I had only 2 repeaters, and I bought a third one, and I bought a newer one, and it sat in my office right next to my computer, basically, right? So that I could get the
hmm
higher internet speeds there. And then one of them was down in my basement, one of them was in my bedroom, and that covered my 2,700 foot square home, multi level home, because it was a split level, and all of the half acre of my yard. Now, when I got in the trailer on the very, very back corner of the yard, right, if
hmm
I wanted to have signal out there, I would just pull one of those repeaters and set it out
right,
there,
and you'll
and
take it
I was
with you
fine.
out there. Yeah.
Yep, I was fine. So, I mean, you can do it. I was just looking. Best Buy's got the main Eero that I have for 185 bucks. I actually think it's one newer, and then it's got the repeaters for anywhere from 80, if you want this the older version, from 80 to 140. So, yeah, I mean, you're going to spend $300, but
Yeah.
just with those 2 pieces alone, and you can probably find refurbished and older versions too that are going to be fine. I mean, if you want to go to Eero the 7 to Wi-Fi 7 and stuff like that, you can
hmm
spend, like, the main one is $600 or $500, right? But
Yeah.
I don't need to go
Yeah.
to that. So,
And that's the bleeding edge. That's the
yeah.
latest and greatest. And I guarantee most people don't even have like I said, the only Wi-Fi 6E device I have is this brand new iPad Pro
Yeah.
that was just released, last month. So most people don't even have Wi-Fi 7 devices. And usually it's just phones, right?
Yeah.
Because phone manufacturers, Apple, Google, everyone else, Samsung, they're always pushing the limits on those Wi-Fi radios. So usually only your phone would have the latest Wi-Fi standards anyway,
And
phones and tablets.
let's be honest. Most people do not have the challenge that we have with devices. Like I said, my daughter
Yeah,
is going to have a phone for her, an iPad for her, and her MacBook.
yeah,
And then each of her kids
yeah,
have an iPad. We're going to talk about one of those later. Each of her kids have an iPad, but it's going to be years before they end up with
right,
phones,
right.
right? But if you were in a two-parent family with two teenagers, let's say, right, you're probably going to have
Hmm.
4 phones, 2 computers, 2 or 3 tablets, and a couple of streaming devices, and maybe a game console, right? You're hitting the
Yeah,
10 range of devices, and none of those, unless your work demands it, are gonna, or you're a professional gamer, right? You're a professional, you
yeah,
make your living in esports, you're just not gonna need anything more than your internet provider's hardware plus
yeah,
maybe a little bit of mesh
yeah,
networking.
mm,
That's it.
yeah. Maybe a little bit, but yeah, you're right. I agree on that. So,
Jason, we're an
so
hour and a
let,
half in. We're an hour and a
yeah,
half in,
yeah.
buddy. We got to do podcasts more and videos more often because we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, yeah, and the next couple of things, I'll go through them real quick. I know we are running long. Apologies for that, but I scored 6 months of free Paramount Plus with my cell phone plan, so it pays off to be cheap or frugal, as we say, with my prepaid phone service, which is Mint Mobile, Mint Sim, formerly Mint Sim. I like to just pay for the year up front. A lot of people always are asking me like, I have like 10 numbers for you. What number do I reach you at? I'm like, my phone number is not important. I want the data. That's all I
Yeah,
want. That's all I pay for. I message, I FaceTime. Everyone that wants to reach me, you have my iCloud account. Um, if not, I have a Google Voice number that I use for business and stuff like that. But what's important to me is data. I don't need to have a phone number. So it changes every 9 months or every year, depending on which one I pay for. And they finally paid me back by giving me 6 months of Paramount Plus, and I immediately thought of binge watching Picard and Strange New Worlds, and still hadn't had the time. So, but at least I get to watch all of those. I get to catch up on them.
my
The
daughter
next
does
bid
that
I
too.
had,
My daughter does that with
she
Mint.
doesn't mint
She
sim.
just she
Yeah,
pays for a year in advance, and
yeah, it she probably doesn't have the problem like me with it being a prepaid service on T-Mobile network. It gets deprioritized the data, right? So if I'm in a high traffic area like at some of the parks that we're at, or if there's an emergency like the power went out and our cell phone tower went out, my wife's phone was fine because she's at the next tower or whatever. I'm getting really slow data. Remember, I was going outside to have to get a text message out for
yeah,
you or to the family and stuff. So it gets deprioritized with it not being T-Mobile proper, but uh, it is good 98% of the time. So that's not really a big deal for me.
yep,
Um, I found a really cheap stylus that works with that tandem OLED display on the iPad Pro, and it's man,
yeah,
I write, I get to write with it. I play solitaire. I get to play solitaire. I can tap on the screen. I can draw pictures or whatever, take notes. Um, but Greg, like we had the conversation. If you really need those features on the Apple Pencil, there's just no substitute. I
yeah.
paid $8 for this thing.
You're
So,
you're
like the saying goes, you get what you pay for. I paid $8.
you're not
So
a
I got
power
an
stylus.
$8.
You're not a power
Yeah,
stylus user.
yeah, not at all. Not at
Yeah,
all. And if you're listening to us and you're not either, you're like, hey, I just
don't
want to
spend the money.
use Photoshop and yeah, buy this $8 one.
Yeah,
It's
same.
black. It matches the space black, iPad.
It's the same thing with the keyboard. If you only occasionally are going to use the keyboard,
Yep.
with your iPad, buy a
Yep.
cheap Bluetooth keyboard, right? I mean, you
Here you
don't
go,
need
right
to.
here. I think this one was $14.
Yeah.
Now
So
I miss my Apple. I miss my Magic Keyboard. It
we're gonna
just doesn't fit with
we're
this.
gonna
But
talk about that in a minute,
yeah,
but yeah. So yeah.
yeah. Like Rick said, if you're not a power user, I take notes for the show and I'll use it for some emails and stuff when I'm in the shop or maybe some text messages. I don't need to spend the 350 on that the Magic Keyboard, and I
Yeah.
don't want to use it in the shop because I don't want to get it oily and greasy. This goes with me. You can see probably can't see all of the smudges and all of the salt and things like that in the keys, but yeah, this works. This works perfectly for me. So, um, but again, you get what you pay for. So don't buy it and then complain to me like, hey, I can't squeeze this thing and do gestures or do I can't change my pencil tips and stuff out. No, it's not for that.
Right.
You spend $8 on it, dude.
Yep. Exactly.
So, and the last bit of catch up I had was month 16 of a 12-month warranty. My daughter TV went out, and I'm kicking myself because I'm like everybody else's TVs were fine through the storm because the power kept going in and out, in and out. Hers was the only one connected directly to an outlet. I didn't have that one on a power surge, so that's my fault.
Mm,
I gave her my TV from the shop along with my Apple TV, which she was excited about because now she gets to play what is it, Sneaky Sasquatch or something?
uh-huh.
Because we do the Apple Arcade for the summer when the kids are home. She was excited about that. It is a smaller TV. It's not 4K. It's all greasy and smoky from being in the shop. So a bit of a bummer. She had to downgrade, but it is totally my fault. I didn't have it on the power surge. I don't know how I missed that. But yep, the LED backlights went out, and again, the TV is 16 months old, 12-month warranty. If a few months ago we would have got it replaced fully, but no.
Good news is they're cheap.
So,
So
yeah, well, I'm not gonna go that route because as I'm complaining about this, we moved in here. I I upgraded. My son got his TV, his 4K TV, for Christmas. This past Christmas, this past holiday that just passed. The Samsung TV that he had was the original Samsung TV we bought when we moved in here. So that TV was 14 years old. Samsung, not a problem. I sold it to a guy. He came and picked it up right here. I sold it on local offer up site. He came and picked it up right at my doorstep. He gave me $100 for that TV, and it was 14 years old. It's still a good 3D TV. Worked perfectly, worked fine. Um, and that was a Samsung TV. And here, this Hisense TV was 16 months old, and it died on me. So
yeah.
all the storms, all the other things, I'm never buying any other TV besides LG and Samsung. So
Yeah.
yes,
I'm
they're
LG.
cheap, but I'm never going that route again.
Yeah,
Only
I'm
LG
LG,
and Samsung.
but you can still get those at good prices too. So I have a feeling we're
Right.
going to be looking to
Right.
upgrade so I'm just looking at it here right now. I've got a TCL Roku TV here in the trailer, and it just isn't going to cut it. So that's going to be on the list of
Right.
things to upgrade.
Yep. That's on my list because you're downgrading from 4K back to 1080p, and you're not going to be able to live with that. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're going to get you back on 4K.
Oh,
And my son's
so
TV is TCL, so you hadn't had any trouble with that TCL TV because
no,
I'm worried about that one next because that was a cheaper one too.
it's not an issue, but I don't use it a ton either. So okay, but I got
Hmm.
to tell you, um, I probably should have waited till I got the iPad Pro, but I
Hmm.
Dune 2 was on sale. Um,
Right.
so I bought it and I watched it on my MacBook the other night with the iPods
Okay.
Max or the AirPods Max.
Yeah. Did you feel like you were?
It was a it was a
You
pretty
feel
good
like you were?
experience, other than it's 14
I
inches,
would.
right? But
Yeah.
it was pretty good.
I would imagine that would be quite the experience.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's funny to talk about these things, but when you hear they talk about spatial audio, and to most people, they don't even know. They don't even listen to like spatial audio and stuff. That's not a feature. But experiencing it for the first time, it's crazy. So couple that with the display on the MacBook and the movie in 4K and the spatial audio and all of that, man. Yeah, I
Yeah,
bet you it was an experience.
I don't think I've finished it yet, so I think I'm only part of the way through it. So I'm looking forward to watching when the no spoilers, but the big sandworms come out, and I'm
Yeah,
looking forward to that.
yeah.
So anyway,
So let's jump into my iPad review. So again, this is going to be a mini review. I'm not going to go on about it. Again, we were going to have a whole show dedicated to this because I just love the iPad so much. But since we've been away, we just we wanted to do a bit of a catch up. And also during the period that we were away, these 2 weeks, man, there are hundreds of reviews on the iPad Pro, on the iPad Air, on usage. There's bin tests. Have you seen some of the bin tests?
no,
It's
I
pretty.
just I can't bring myself. All
Yeah,
I've heard is Apple did a good job on the engineering, and of course, if you apply enough force,
yeah.
it's going to bend. So
Right. If you want to bend it and break it,
yeah,
you're going to do that. But surprisingly, the guys that were trying to do it, they said yes. It's
yeah,
there's other issues that happen before it even breaks. Right,
yeah,
you'll end up with a bent iPad that's still usable. You know what I mean? It's crazy. So there's so many reviews, so many unboxings, so much of that on YouTube that you can find. So I figured I'll just talk about my experiences briefly, and I'm calling it a mini review, and this is definitely a mini review. So out of the box, again, the setup went smoothly, right? Smoother than I wanted it because, as we mentioned before, I wanted to start from scratch, just like I did with my router and my home network. I didn't want any of those old files and things. Well, files that I need to access in my iCloud. My iCloud data and information, I wanted that. That's all I wanted. I didn't want any old apps, any old app files or settings or things like that to carry over. I wanted to start from scratch. But the setup process is so smooth and so magical. All I did was hold my old phone next to the new one when I opened it out of the box, and it took off. Went down that process, took me back to my home screen with my home wallpaper, and started installing my old apps. And I'm like, wait, I didn't want this. I didn't want this. So I didn't even realize that there wasn't a setting to start from scratch. That setup is just so smooth. It just took me right through. Boom. So I did have to set it up, do a wipe. It ran you through having to do that update, that final update. Then I can wipe it and start from scratch. And this time, instead of doing the holding my iPhone next to it to initiate that setup, I just went through and stepped through each step to set it up from scratch, from new. Loaded my iCloud on it. Didn't restore from a backup. Just started new and got off the running. And then I got sick for a week and couldn't really tinker around with it like I wanted to, and reinstall the apps that I wanted to. But when I finally got to the point uh, to where it was actually usable and I can use it in my daily life again, it's great. It's great. So setup, no problem at all. But since I believe with iOS 15, set up and restore from either upgrading or losing a device or wiping and selling a device, Apple has really made that process so much simpler. It's a breeze. So the screen, I mentioned this before. They from when Apple had the events and they had people come out and view it, everybody would say the screen is awesome, right? We knew the screen was going to be better, right? They're switching from that Retina display that they had to an OLED screen, or a tandem OLED screen, and people say, "Oh, you just have to see it in person. It just looks really good. It looks amazing." Um, and they were saying, like, most people were like, "Could you be able to tell if you're not doing a side by side comparison, right? Having this generation next to an older generation and seeing the difference." No, even if you don't see another iPad screen, this looks amazing, right? I'm looking at my iPad screen. It looks amazing. And then I look up at my computer monitor and I'm like, Like,
Right.
like what is going on here? Like, it makes me feel like my vision is bad. No, the screen is just bad. Um, I spent most of the night looking at some of those OLED test videos from YouTube, right? And now I'm streaming at streaming it in 4K on my new network, and I'm looking at it on the screen, and there's things like um, they're filming goldfish in in their bowls like up close, and you're just seeing all the details and all how the water just kind of, what do they call that when it like forms the bubble around their scales and stuff like that. It's like, it's amazing. It's amazing. Fireworks and stuff going off, things and flowers and like high detail and stuff like that. um I just spent so much time just looking at those OLED test videos. So check those out if you have a new pro and you're looking to see what that screen can do, this OLED screen can do. Check out some of those videos.
And that's actually, so one of the things that I spent some time looking into was the
Mhm.
nano texture display versus the regular.
Right.
Because I kind of would like to be outside a lot. And so I've
Yeah.
been trying to figure out, do I want to go with that nano texture? Because it's pretty dramatic, the glare diffusion on the videos.
Hmm.
And, but I might try and go see it in a store before I make a decision. But I
Yes.
just don't. Everybody says that you can tell the difference, that the colors don't pop, the contrast isn't as good. And so I just don't know if I'm willing to give that up for,
Hmm.
struggling with a little bit in the light. So I've been watching
Right.
a lot of
Right.
those videos. Um, so
Have you
we'll see.
seen any that do a comparison between the nano texture and then a paper like screen protector or filter, or a cover or something like that?
Yeah,
Because maybe the
that's
difference between those two won't be
yeah.
a big deal.
What the recommendation is instead of paying the extra $100, is to get a $50 magnetic um,
Okay.
screen protector, right? That you can pop
Right.
on.
Right.
So that's probably what I'm going to end up doing, because I just don't know that I want to give up the quality of the screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And it is every bit of amazing as people say. It is really it's really a leap over the previous generation, and the previous generation had an awesome screen on it too, right? Those Retina displays look really good, but this is on a different level.
I'm going to be coming from an iPad mini.
Right,
So
right,
it's not even the previous. Like I said, the last iPad Pro I had was probably 2016.
yeah.
So
The
yeah, I mean,
screen is, yeah.
yeah,
It's a new
I'm
level.
super excited.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned earlier, it's the only Wi-Fi 6E device on my network, and my router, the system that I went with, has a wired backhaul, which is what I'm using in the home, and then a wireless backhaul out to the shop. Well, I can dedicate that Wi-Fi 6E as a wireless backhaul, and that should give me faster speeds back there. I hadn't done it yet because I'm playing around with, even though this is the only device that I can use it, I'm enjoying the speeds on it. So I'm sacrificing speeds in the shop just so I could enjoy that speed on my iPad. But eventually, I'm just gonna go back to using 5 gigahertz in the house. Dedicate the 6 gigahertz band to the shop, just so I can increase the speed out there. But for now, because again, the TV's out, the lighting and the ventilation and stuff works fine on 2.4
Right.
gigahertz. So I don't really need speed for those. And when I'm out there now, I'm just streaming either Amazon Music or Pandora. So I don't need the speed yet. So I'm going to enjoy the speed in the house. But eventually, when I get another television and Apple TV back there, I'm going to want those speeds. So it fixed some of the issues that I had. And something else I noticed this morning, right before we recorded. So some of the issues that it fixed, um, but then it left some too. Some followed me from the old iPad, and I'll get into that in a second. But the battery life issue is gone, and that was the main issue that I'm having. And I'm curious too to see if, because the iPad Air is basically the previous generation iPad Pro. So I'm curious to see if people start having battery issues with the iPad Air. So I'm going
Or
to look that up to see if there's some tests too
if they tweak
between
that
the
M2
iPad Air and the Pro.
processor, right, to
Right,
solve
right.
some of those battery issues.
Yep, because that was the problem. It was that processor was really draining that battery. So battery issue is gone, and I'm I'm loving life now. This is how iPad should be. This is how my previous generation was before the M2, and this is how the M4 is. This is how battery life should be. I'm getting 10 plus hours a day. And that's
That's
with
great.
leaving the Wi-Fi and the Bluetooth on, because I got into the habit of making sure I turn off what I'm not using, right? Just to extend that battery life. I don't even do that anymore. So yeah, life is great with the battery issue. Um, One of the issues that it seemed to fix was every time when I connect to my hub to do my stage manager, I have to reset my settings for the display, right? Meaning I have to put the orientation, I have to put where my iPad is located in in what position it is with the monitor, and I have to change it to not mirror the display but to extend the desktop, because that's how I like to use the stage manager. It saved the settings. So now that was just a day, right? I was in here yesterday, but it used to every time I did it. Now there may be iOS 17.5 or point for whenever they fix it. It just may have been just a regular
Or you
software
had
update.
or you had a setting somewhere that since you started from
Right. It
scratch
could have
got
been.
reset.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't think about that. So whatever that issue is, it's gone. It seemed I plugged it in and everything was set just like I had it before. So I always wanted that to happen, and I was hoping for that with WWDC, but it seemed to have come early for me today. So um, that's good. But one of the issues that followed me was it's still telling me that I can't call from my iPhone because I need to be logged into the same account, the same iCloud account, and they are the same iCloud accounts. And again, I know I can call Apple. I actually need to jump on the phone with support, because looking up the uh, the solutions that I found that fix some people issues was just to log out of both and log back in, which I believe you've done to resolve a ton of issues that you were having, was just to log out of iCloud on both the devices and log back in. That doesn't seem to fix the problem. For some reason, these devices are looking at the iCloud account as two different accounts, and it
Hmm.
won't let me make phone calls from my iPad. And that's been a problem that I've been dealing with for at least a year, that it just stopped working one day. I went to make a call and it said, you need to be logged in on the same account. And I'm like, wait, this is the same account. So again, this is a mini review. I can go on and on and on about that, but I'll just say the new iPad Pro, it's okay. It's an okay device. So
Okay,
I love it.
let me ask you a question. So you got the terabyte
Uh-huh.
model, right?
Yes.
You ended up doing
Yep.
that. I don't think we talked about that, but when we last left our listeners, Jason only had the 512 and went to the store.
Right.
Tell us about that. How did that go? Because that was a pretty cool experience. Apple does care a little bit more.
They care a little bit. They care a little bit. Now, I was going to bring something else up to you too. I'll save it for off air, because I told Wendy, she was like, that was kind of strange, but um, it went smooth. I got there. I tried to get there about 20 minutes early or so, because I assumed that there was going to be a line of people who didn't order online that just came to pick up. So, like, let me pick up. That way I can pick up and get back to the house and get to work. Remember, busiest week ever, busiest week of the year, on a lunch day. And I got in. The lady was like, "Yeah, we have some stock. Do you want to swap it out or whatever?" I'm like, "Yeah, cool." So I did the full. She did a full refund, put it on the gift card, because I paid with two different. I had my credits in my Apple account from my trade in, and some cash that I put in. And then I paid the balance on the card, and she was like, "Oh yeah, no problem. I'll just put it all on this card, and you pay the difference." And yeah, she went right back. Well, actually, they have guys that they come out with them now, and they find whatever salesperson, and brought it right to her, swapped it out, and I was in and out of the store, and no time. It was really quick. As soon as they opened up the gate, she helped me out, and we got it swapped out. One thing you did tell me you saw online was they're no longer including the Apple logo in the in the box when you
The
buy it.
stickers.
So they were like, just yeah, the sticker. They were just like, just ask for it. So I asked, and she was like, I don't know, because I know they're not doing it anymore. And she asked the guy, one of her coworkers. He was like, yeah, we just give them now. Just go back. So he went to the back and grabbed one, and I was like, "Hey, it's white. You guys aren't giving the black one since this is a space black model." And he was like, "No, that's specifically for the Pro and the MacBook Pro, the space black model." So he's like, they couldn't give me that model. So I was a little disappointed, but you can still ask for it. You can still request it. But I have a good buddy of mine that immediately heard, put one in the letter for me, and mailed it to me. So I do have my black Apple sticker right here, even though I didn't get it from Apple. So thanks a lot, Greg, for
Yep.
sharing one with me. I appreciate that. So
Cool.
I have all of
Any
my stickers here. My wife was saying she's gonna get me the frame, because remember I was gonna put them all in the frame and display it.
yeah.
So
So
she's gonna be working on that.
any regrets about spending the extra couple $100 to get the terabyte?
No, I usually am, and I thought about that. I usually do regret spending the money, because I like to say I'm pretty frugal. I like to save all I can, but since I already had a fairly big budget for the iPad, um, spending the extra out of pocket really didn't bother me like I thought it would. So no regrets at all, and I'm actually glad that I switched, because I would have been on that 512 model, always wondering like, oh, will this perform better? Will this? And again, we still don't know till iOS 18 what
Yeah.
features I'm really going to be able to take advantage of. But as it is now with iOS 17.5, I'm happy with my decision. I'm glad I went.
Cool.
So good peer pressure from you and my wife in that sense, at least in this case.
You're welcome. What can I say except you're welcome?
Welcome. All right, Greg. So again, that was my mini review. Let's talk about our tech future. So this is the last part of the show that I wanted to close out with, and and I'm talking short term. Let's just talk about just 2024, because I know long term there's plenty of devices that we're gonna buy. Of course, if the new iPad next year has a different form factor, I'm gonna jump on that. But the Nighthawk router was less than 2 years old. And again, it was a powerhouse. It is a beast of a router. I'm going to try to resell that to get as much value as I can. But the mesh system is something that was more of a long-term goal for me as far as tech upgrades. But Greg, in the next few months, you're not only having to downsize, a lot of your life. This is a huge transition, I think, because Wendy and I were talking about it, and she feels the same like me. Like, this is going to be a huge undertaking. So this question was specifically, with you in mind, because not only are you downsizing, but you also have to figure out way to do things differently and more efficiently, in the new living situation. So I put on here no spoilers for the trailer, because that's going to be a whole episode where we tech
A
out
whole
the
series of
trailer and stuff.
episode, I think.
Right, a whole series. We're really going to dive deep on that. So if there's something that you want to mention, go ahead and mention it. I say no spoilers, but you really have a lot of, again, figuring out ways to do things differently. So
Yeah.
what's some of the tech in your future that you're going to be using that's going to really help you adjust to this new lifestyle that you're using? And I'm going to let you go first here. I just got a couple of things that I
Yeah.
wanted to use, but let's jump into yours.
Well, I mean, so moving from a home to a trailer,
Hmm.
if that doesn't work out, I'm only going to a condo or an apartment. I'm not buying another home right now. So no matter
Right.
what, I'm downsizing, right? But it's not just that,
Yeah.
but there's some career transitioning stuff I want to start working
Yes.
on too. And so this is, I think my tech life for the next probably 18 months is going to be in a state of upheaval. So
Yeah.
the one thing I will mention related to the trailer, which will be one of the first things I get, is either going to be a smart doorbell or a security camera, because I'm not going to be in my neighborhood. I'm going to be in a campground. It's long term.
Hmm.
They do all the things that they need to. They do background checks on everybody. People have been there 20 years. They haven't had issues. I did
Yeah.
all that research, right? But I just want something that shows me the trailer. So probably one in and one out. Um,
Yep.
something inside and
And
something outside. So
that's on my list too. And I think
yeah.
you're going to be happy with the one that I
So
chose.
we're gonna
We
have
talked about it before.
we might be doing that one sooner rather than later. So that's the only one
Okay.
there. So um, I am going to get the iPad Pro.
Okay.
So I am going to get it. I already think I know what day I'm going to get it. I'm going to go pick it up in a store. I'm going to have the store experience. My sister and I have been every couple weeks trying to go to lunch, and so there just
Okay.
so happens to be a cheesecake factory attached to the mall
Nice.
where that Apple store that I'll go pick this up is. So I think I'm going to go do that, and I might get a Vision Pro demo while I'm there, depending
Okay.
on what happens at WWDC on Monday. So this is all post WWDC. So I was really
Right.
tempted to go do it last week. I'm tempted to go do it this week, but I need to wait another couple weeks. So
Yeah.
I will get the Apple Pencil Pro. I'm gonna get a folio type case with it. Probably not Apple's because their colors are horrible. But I do want a regular case for it because I don't want it in the
Hmm.
keyboard all the time. Um, I'm gonna get a keyboard for it. The Apple keyboard is getting all of the raves, but the balance on it seems to be off. So I've seen a couple of folks that
Yep.
every time you tap on the screen, it rocks the keyboard, and the old one didn't do that.
Right.
So
So the
I'll
keyboard
be
is lighter.
yeah, so I'll be looking into keyboard cases. I don't know what I'm going to do there. The Logitech one looks pretty good, but I don't like that it's a
Yeah.
kickstand. So I don't know. We'll
So I like
see.
the kickstand, just don't like the case, right? I don't want that case around
Yeah,
the rubber case around it. But I do like the kickstand. But I'm with
I,
you on there.
I
Keyboard is too soon in the game for me.
what I
So it sounds
really
like it's the
want.
same with you.
Yeah, what I really want is the. Remember the old bridge one that had the little hinges that you kind of had to work the iPad down
Yep.
into? That's
Yep.
really what I would like, except for do it with magnets instead of grips, right? Do it with magnets
Yep.
on the back, similar to what Apple did. But so I'll be doing some research on cases for the next couple of weeks. I'm probably going to get a hub for it. That might
Hmm.
depend on WWDC because I think I want to be able to record with just my iPad and just my iPad potentially because it can record
Yeah.
4K 30 FPS on device, and it can also record 30 or 4K 60 FPS if you have a external drive that it's recording to. So I don't know. We'll see what
Yeah.
they come out with from a software standpoint. So I'm gonna do the iPad Pro. That's on my list. Not next episode because that's WWDC and not the follow up
Hmm.
one. But maybe the episode after that, the one on the 25th, I'll have my iPad Pro by then. So
Yeah.
I keep watching, and I can go pick it up in store. So, um, so that's most
So
likely going to be my plan.
so I don't know how deep you want to go in on this. We may want to save this for another time, or maybe we can save it for the post show. But originally, you were thinking about going down the iPad Air line. Remember, we talked about you
Yeah,
getting it because it's 13 inches and it's pretty powerful. It's way more powerful. It's actually in an awkward position between the iPad Pro because it's almost Pro, right? It's
it's
the last generation of the iPad Pro, um, but it's the iPad Air. So what happened between there? Why are you going with the Pro now? For
because
the display, I know we talked about the
the
display.
display. So I think I'll
Okay, and the
always regret.
M4, or
I think I'll always regret if I don't.
yeah,
I think I'll hold
yeah,
that iPad Air and wish it was a Pro.
yeah,
I think that's what will happen.
yeah,
I mean, you know me well enough that that's probably what I could.
yeah,
I mean, this is all predicated on me closing on my house. So, right. I mean,
yeah.
if I don't close on my house in the next couple of weeks, which everything is going fine, then I might have to consider that, because it will work for everything that I want to do for it. The only thing is, this is going to be I don't have a TV in the bedroom in this trailer. Right. And so if
Okay.
Karen and I want to lay in bed and watch a show, or I want to lay in bed and watch a show, that's what I'll need, is
Yeah.
my iPad. So so I'm 98% iPad Pro, but the iPad Air is still a really, really good option. But if you'll notice that I've got a couple of other iPads on this list. So one of
Yeah.
them is, I think I'm going to upgrade Karen's. Karen is on the first 11-inch iPad Pro, not the 10.5, but the first 11-inch iPad Pro.
Yeah.
So
The weird square looking one, right?
yeah,
Almost square looking.
yep. So I'm thinking about getting her an iPad Air, probably the 13. Well, I don't know. She may want just the 11-inch. So, but we're
Right.
going to have that conversation. And then my youngest grandson, the iPad he has is the one that my mom had, and it's so old it can't run Disney Plus. So,
Which is a problem.
yeah.
Which is a problem.
So when I go up to get my Pro, I may be taking that iPad and my wife's iPad up and trading those in and getting
Okay.
him the entry level, right? The 10th gen, I guess what it is now. So,
Yeah.
and then get her whatever she decides she wants. And then longer term, if they release a new mini this year, I'm still going to get it, because it's still going to be my primary book reading device. So,
And then you take that one to a temple and stuff when you go. It's easy to carry.
yeah,
You
I
read
mean,
the scriptures and
church,
stuff
all
from it.
those kinds of things. Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
well, we'll see.
So
That
yeah, I know
it's not
you're
out.
not gonna do without your mini. You're
Nah,
not gonna do without. You're day one on the mini, just like I am with the pro. So
but we'll see. I mean, we'll see what they come out with, right? And where I'm at and how much of my reading I've moved to the Pro, right? So, but
Mhm.
I read a lot of books. I mean, I spend hours and hours a week reading books, and I just don't think I want to read them on that big of a screen. So,
Yeah.
then just some other ancillary tech. So I do want to get a new backpack or a tech travel case. So that's on my list. The new Nintendo Switch, if it comes out, is definitely be a day one. Um,
Yeah.
the new Apple Watch Ultra, assuming they come out with a new version in the fall, that's on my list. Not the iPhone. I don't know that I'm going to need to upgrade the iPhone. It's going to take something pretty spectacular for me to want to trade in my phone. And
Right.
then I'm excited about all of those, but I'm super excited about the last one that I have here on the list. I'm going to get an e-bike. Um,
Okay.
I'm aging. I'm not old. Well, no, I embrace the oldness. But I want to be able to keep doing these epic bike rides, and just
Right.
an e-bike will just make that an e-mountain bike. I've got a ride around on the streets e-bike, but I want an e-mountain bike, so one that I can go on all the
Okay.
trails I go on. And so that's on my list of things. So there's quite a bit on this list here. I might have to prioritize and be more frugal about certain things, but like I may have to trade, or I may have to sell my regular mountain bike to get the e mountain bike. So that's
Okay.
my list.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a pretty good list, and I'm with you on some of this. Definitely the Ultra, the next version. Just the Ultra 2 just kind of rubbed me the wrong way with the pinch and all of that. All of that stuff they could have put on ours with just a software update. But, again, I digress. I'm not going to rant about that. But definitely if a newer version comes out with newer features, longer battery life, definitely, even though battery life is still excellent on these things, I'm with you on the Apple Watch. Some of the devices I want is more smart home devices, but some that connect directly by themselves. I want to eliminate some of these hubs. So I noticed when I was organizing my network and reattaching devices and stuff, it was a hassle to deal with the hubs that I have. Now I only have two. Well, I have three. One I was able to bypass like completely. I don't have to use it anymore. But the Hue bridge is a hub that controls all of the Hue lights. Now, as much as I love Hue lights, I love these other light companies that allow me to connect the lights directly to the hub. I mean, directly to the router by themselves, individually, and then control the lights as a group. Right? The light in the room. There's 4 recessed lights in here, 4 different lights, meaning 4 different devices connected to the router, but they act as one. So I can group these lights together, and still, when I turn on the room lights, all 4 would turn on. I turn them off, all 4 would turn off. I want to turn them blue, all 4 would turn blue. Um, but if I just wanted one, that's I'm not going to say complicated, but it requires more steps to control one, and it's easier to control all 4. That's just the way I have it set up. Now, I can do it vice versa if I wanted to. So I want more devices like that, so I can eliminate those hubs. The same with the security cameras. They work individually, but if I wanted to view, let's say something happened outside, or someone came, uh, uh, or set off one of the cameras on the side of the house, to be able to access that video, they don't store them directly on the camera or in the cloud. The only way to get local storage is through that hub. And it's kind of annoying. It's kind of a hassle to deal with it, but it's just kind of a necessary evil to have. So I just want to eliminate hubs completely and have every device connect directly to my home network, and
Well,
that'll make things a lot easier.
I'm telling you, when I do Internet of Things, if it, I had the Ring doorbell, that was fine.
Right.
But even going forward, I want everything HomeKit enabled. If I can't
Yeah.
manage it from the home app, then I don't know that I want to deal
Yeah.
with it.
We're not going to bother with it. And that brings me to my next one. It's iCloud Secure Video. I use it now with our doorbell cam, and it works so much better than the other 4 cameras. So much better. No hub, no having to access a hard drive to view those videos and stuff like that. They show up right in the home app, and they're stored on iCloud. Not unlimited, I believe, with the iCloud plan that you have, because you pay for the terabyte, don't you? No, you got the
I've got
plus.
2 terabytes, so I'm on the
Okay, the two
subscription. I'm
terabytes.
on the I'm on
Yeah,
their highest end family plan.
right. So you'll be able to store unlimited amounts of camera video. Now, I say unlimited. There is a limit, but it's not like me. I only have a week or 2 weeks. I need to look that up. Don't quote me on that, but I have a limited amount. But since it's only the doorbell camera, and since it only records animals and people, not cars, not sound and stuff like that, you can set it to record those, but only when people come up. So we're talking visitors, Amazon driver. Oh, it records packages too. When there's a package on the porch, it'll let me know. And dogs, because neighbors let their dogs out in the morning, and they need to check to make sure that there's not some crazy dog running around out front before the kids go to the bus. But because that 2 weeks is enough for me, right? It's only recording a few videos or whatever. It
Right.
can record continuously, but it'll record continuous just for 2 weeks. I want to get all of my security cameras on that. So in the near future, I'm gonna be getting rid of my Arlo cameras, which work fine, 4K quality, 4K on the main ones, 2K on the other ones, but they all look great. They look great at night. But yes, just like Greg said, I just want to manage stuff more simply, more simplified management of these cameras and stuff, and I want to get rid of those hubs. So I want to get those videos in HomeKit and be able to manage them from there, and eliminate all of those hubs. So, and like you again, you mentioned the Apple Watch. No iPads for me. There's definitely going to be another television, even though I thought I was done with televisions. There's going to be another television to replace my daughter's TV, and I'll put my old 1080p one back out in the shop, and the Apple TV. But yeah, for the near future, not really much,
What
right? I
about
got what I wanted.
iPhone?
So the iPhone, and this may sound vain, but man, I just love the way this 14 Pro looks. Now, unless the next iPhone just looks just as good as this one, it looks amazing. Like, again, I don't like the 15. I don't like the colors. I don't like the style. I don't like those rounded edges. Um, so unless it looks really good, or software wise and hardware wise, it does something really awesome, right? I don't
Y-
really need the camera to be spectacular, but
Yeah, but
it
USB-C, USB-C,
right,
USB-C.
that is another hardware limitation that I have. I'm so tired of lightning connect. I actually have to look for a lightning connector whenever I want to charge the phone physically. If not, it's, on my charger, it's using MagSafe. I put a MagSafe charger in my truck finally. My wife had one, but I put one in my truck. And yeah, unless if it looks good, Apple, get those color schemes together for this fall, because if you come out with these washed out colors that you have on the 15, I'm just not gonna like it. Or I may end up going with a case or a scan net. You know what I mean?
Go white. I
So
like the white.
uh,
The white looks good.
it does look good. That is the it's kind of like the off white kind of color, right?
Yeah, I mean
Or
it's
antique white. What do they call it? Antique white or something like that.
yeah, I mean
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I
it
can
looks
deal with
good.
that one. I
Yeah.
can deal with that one, and may be able to deal with the black one. So it all depends. I'm not going to commit to getting an iPhone because I love mine. I love my 14 so much. It looks really good, and still
Cool.
no major dents, no major dings, no problems with it. Still case free.
I'm I may be digging out the back screen protector and putting it back on this and going caseless for a while. But we'll see.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, I got everything I wanted, which was the iPad. Now I just need the software to go along with it. My mesh system was big. The Switch 2, I wasn't going to day one that anyway, unless they pull a classic Nintendo and say this game or this DLC or this for one of the games I love is only available on this new system, which I don't expect them to do, but that's the only thing that would force me to buy it. If not, that'll be 2025 when something new comes out that I want to play.
It
So
might
I'll
be
put that off.
2025 before it comes out anyway. So
All right. So before we go, I know we said the post show was going to be about our WWDC wish list, but we talked about this several times, and I believe we're on record already about what we really want out of WWDC. So we're just going to just do a quick reminder instead of doing a post show. So no post show this week. Um, this show it already ran pretty long. Thank you guys for sticking around with us. So we'll take a little bit more of your time and just talk about what we're planning on seeing with WWDC next week. And again, we'll do our hot takes on Monday to talk about what was actually talked about and released. But Greg, let's just jump into it. One of the main things that I want is out of WWDC, it's all iPad OS related, right? I love iOS, I love my phone, but there's not really much that I wanted to do um, that's really going to change things for me, right? The changes with iPad OS and like you, the changes with Vision OS are going to really determine the purchases and stuff that you make in the future. You,
yeah,
you know what I mean? So with me, I mean, I already made the purchase of the iPad, but determine whether I spend more on the keyboard, more on other accessories and stuff like that, is going to be more support for third party devices, right? If they add, and it already supports external cameras, microphones, right? We recorded a lot of our episodes on this Yeti microphone that I have. Um, Being able to use all those together at the same time, not just an audio channel or a video channel, but if iPad OS allows us to be able to use multiple external devices at a time, and I think it's powerful enough to do so, that's really going to determine whether or not I buy a 4K camera or a different microphone or a different type of hub, because there's a different type of hub that I want to use instead of this little mini hub that I've been using. Even the display, if I wanted to push a different type of display. Um, so that's really the main thing that I want is external device support, better external device support than what we got. It's good now, but still, we're only talking about single devices at a time.
Yeah.
So that's number one on my wish list. What about you? What do you have
Yeah.
for your number one
uh,
pick?
That's number one too. So I would like to be able to put my MacBook in a drawer. So now some of that'll depend on what I decide to do from a career standpoint too, right? So
Yes.
but I think I can manage all the stuff with my current clients, all of those kinds of things straight off of the iPad today. What I can't do on the iPad today is easily record and publish the show. 100%. I actually think
Hmm.
I could record it there now. And I think you're going to switch over to recording from your iPad so you can use the other microphone at some point too, right? I
Yes.
think that's the goal.
Right.
So I think I could record there, but I need to see what the editing is like because Riverside is a Chrome based web browser to do the editing and stuff, and it works great on the MacBook.
Hmm.
So I want them to make that, but they need to do the things like open up audio controls, open up video controls. Um,
Yes.
so either that, or I may decide that we don't edit in Riverside or something like that. So I'd like to be able to put my MacBook in a drawer for the most part and just have it as backup. Or if one of my kids says, "Hey, I need a new computer," for me to be able to feel comfortable saying, "Here, take this one." Um,
Right.
so I don't know exactly what that looks like because I haven't tried editing in Riverside on an iPad yet. So I will try that when I get it
Hmm.
and see if it works at all. But I just don't know if it's going to. So, but
Yeah.
that would mean opening up some of the stuff to the Chrome browser, giving more controls, all of those kinds of things. I mean, really, iPad OS is the holdback from the hardware. The hardware is better than this MacBook I'm sitting here working on, yet my MacBook can still do 10x more
Yeah.
than the
Way.
iPad
Yep. Way
can.
more.
So, but for me, I'd love to be able to get down to just back to just doing the iPad. I mean, again, simplifying my life, right?
Yeah.
As I go through this downsize. And then the other thing for me is uh, I may not be able to do it this year because, again, especially adding the e-bike into my purchases because my e-bike will not be cheap. I want to see what they do with Vision
Hmm.
OS. Can they give me a reason to buy Vision OS, right? And
Yeah.
but I don't think I have enough to justify it right now. And I would rather purchase the e-bike versus that. But I'd like to be able to go into next year and say I need to plan for purchasing a Vision OS. So those are the two things I'm going to be looking at the most. Mac OS, for what I use it for, is just fine and dandy. My iPhone is just fine. I am not as excited about all the AI stuff as all the tech geeks seem to get excited about.
Yeah.
Um, I'd like Siri to be smarter and more accurate and more reliable. Cool. Um, but beyond that, the iPad OS and Vision OS are the two I'm going to keep my eye on the most. And we'll see what they do with Watch OS. Although I'm really in a comfortable
Yep.
spot with my watch, right? I mean, it just
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it works
Same
the
here.
way it needs to, and so yeah,
Yeah. So I do. While you brought up WatchOS, I always look forward to the better wallpapers. The better
new
watch
watch faces,
faces
yeah,
and the
maybe
new functionality and stuff like that. They usually
give
add new workout modes and stuff.
give me a Star Wars or a Disney version of the Snoopy watch face, please.
Yeah. Yeah. So I look forward to stuff like that. But I'm with you. It you mentioned it before. It just fits into your life and falls into the background. You're
Yeah,
not constantly having to tinker with it. You're not constantly having to change settings to get it to work. You charge it, get up, put it on, and everything just works like you want it to. And that's where I am with the watch. I don't, um, other than changing bands and watch faces, there's not many settings I have to change. It's not overly annoying with the notifications. I got those all tuned in exactly where I want. Um, yeah, I'm with you.
yeah. I'm actually going to
Um,
try Work Outdoors again. Remember, I was having those problems with Work Outdoors where the audio is
yeah,
start and
yeah.
stop. I'm going to try it again today. I think if I go for a walk or a bike ride, I'm going to try it again and see if it
Okay.
um, kicks back in, if it's working. So, but other than that, I mean, it works. It's amazing, and I see how often my wife has to charge her Series 7 or whichever one it is that she's got, and
Right,
I go,
right.
how do you deal with that? So,
Yeah, yeah. That was us a couple of years ago. We were like cavemen, charging
yep,
our watches twice a day.
yep.
So another thing I had was, this may be wishful thinking on my part. I may be going down the wrong road here, but I'm still holding out. Maybe Apple was holding. They don't generally announce new hardware at WWDC unless it's a what have they done in the past hardware wise? They've
Developer
announced
related
hardware
stuff,
before.
stuff that developers are
Yeah,
really going to care about.
yeah, yeah. But I'm still hoping that because they're going to announce so many new features with iPad OS that they say, "Oh, here's the keyboard that was rumored, but we didn't talk about." You know what I
Oh,
mean?
the nice one with the dock and
With the dock
everything
and
built.
and
Yeah,
all of that. So I'm hoping that part of me kind of wishes that kind of thinks that if they had something in the pipeline, it would have been released with the iPad. But because they're selling so many units of the Magic Keyboard now, but may it had some functionality or whatever with the new keyboard that may have spoiled some of WWDC for them, right?
yeah.
The being able to use multiple devices and using it as a hub and stuff like that. So it may be wishful thinking on my part. I hadn't seen any rumors hinting towards that, but anything's possible with that. So I am looking forward to that, or in the very least, some Apple uh, external devices, an
Yeah,
Apple webcam, an Apple microphone, an Apple dedicated directly to the iPad and iPad OS. Because one of the things that kind of gave me hope was you see with Final Cut that they announced
the
during
multicam.
the
Yeah,
multicam, which kind of hinted towards being able to at least use um, what do they call that, continuity cam, which was
yeah,
one of the things on the wish list. Maybe it may be possible to do that, or use several cameras with iPad OS outside of Apple's Final Cut application. You know what I mean?
right.
That's a first party application. But if they open that up, which they will for developers and stuff at WWDC, I'm hoping the updates will come pretty soon. Um,
Right.
and not really much I had on that front, but one of the things I would mention that I'm looking forward to is I'm hoping for a pretty stable public beta right out of the gate.
Especially
You
for
know what I
iPad.
mean?
Yeah.
Right. Beta is beta. You know what I mean? I know people are listening. If they go, well, you can't hope for that. You can't.
Don't touch
You're
the
right.
public beta. We'll tell you right
Yep.
now.
Yep.
Don't
Give it a
be
few
like
weeks.
us.
Yeah. Give it a few weeks. But I'm hoping that it's pretty stable within those first couple of releases, right? Release
Yeah.
one always it's going to be a nightmare. I know. But at least about the second one, it'll be stable enough to use it because I'm not waiting until September.
Yeah.
I'm not waiting for September. Public beta number one is going on my iPad, and I'm using it, and I'm hoping it doesn't wreck our being able to record the show and stuff like that. If not, I still have my Air sitting right here. I'm not gonna put the beta on my phone. Uh, but yeah, I'm going right out of the gate. Public beta. I'm not gonna do the developer beta. But public beta one, I'm gonna go, and I'm hoping it's stable enough to use. Um, and get through my day and stuff with that. So weird wish list, but that's on the list.
I think that's all I've got.
Okay. All right. Well, again, like I said, folks, we weren't going to take up much of your time. I know this was a long one. Thank y'all so much for listening. And Greg, you want to close us out?
We'll see you right after WWDC. Watch for the show to drop on Monday, both in audio and video format. We'll do our hot takes right after, and Jason will be remote. We'll see how that goes. I'll be at a different location. I'll still be in the trailer, but at a different location. So should be a very interesting Monday next week. So
Yep. Yep. We'll see you guys then. Have a good
thanks,
week.
everyone.